George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. A Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final this evening in Edmonton as the Oilers and Panthers square off for the second straight year. The Oilers looking to become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since Montreal in 1993. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT. The Oilers minus 120 on the money line. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Suns hiring Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as their next head coach. He started as a video coordinator for the Hawks and has also served as an assistant for the Nets and Lakers before spending last season in Cleveland. Over on the diamond, the Mariners hosting the Orioles again this evening after dropping the series opener last night. Emerson Hancock starting for Seattle, Cade Povich for Baltimore. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now a half game behind the Astros in the AL West. And the Rockies finished off a 3-game sweep of the Marlins, their first sweep since May 13th through 15th of last year against the Padres. They are 12-50 on the season and on pace for an overall record of 31-131. And in the college game, Game 1 of the Women's College World Series tonight in Oklahoma City, Texas and Texas Tech in a best-of-3 series, First pitch at 5 o'clock on ESPN. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's back. The 11th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club happens Tuesday, June 24th. Presented by your local Toyota dealers. Reserve your foursome now at 1080thefan.com. This is Danny and Dusty.
Meringatang is going to be a thing.
You're not coining anything new.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
I'll throw some monkey sounds in there and call it good.
The old Danny Meringue pie?
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Let's fire it up. Danny and friends, Danny and Dusty, whatever your flavor is these days, the revolving door continues. Ryan Buckley here alongside Danny Meringue on the other side of the glass, Jeff Rust. How you doing, fellas?
Doing good, man. It's we got one day until the basketball runneth out on us.
That's right.
Got some golf in last night. And got my my proud Pacers gear on. My jump passes are good now. Shout out Caitlin Cooper. Not to divert anyone away from our show, but she made an appearance with Zach Lowe previewing the Pacers series. If you want to get real in the weeds with the best Pacers reporter out there, go check that out. Not right now, later. I always want to plug Caitlin's work because she's incredible at what she does, and she does not get the attention she deserves.
It's funny. I was on my way in listening to a podcast previewing the NBA Finals, and they were referencing her work there as well. So I know she does an excellent job.
She's incredible, and if she wants it, she should be either working for a team or as like the foremost expert X's and O's in the space. She's incredible what she does. I have tried to get her on the show all week, but the priorities...
They're a little busy?
Well, I mean, Zach Lowe gives you a call. ESPN gives you a call. It's okay, Caitlin. I'm not going to hold it against you.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, no, she's like, I'm swamped. And I'm like, do not apologize. You deserve every last bit of this. Go, please be on the bigger outlets outside of Portland, Oregon. But no, this is like... And it's, of course, somebody out there is right now, it's raining, it's good for the state, keeps make it green. Shut up, get rid of the rain, it's June. I'm sick and tired of it already.
It's going to hit 90 this weekend, apparently.
Yeah, I know,
right?
which I'm all about. But
okay.
At the same time, my body's probably like, thank God for the rain, because maybe it'll quell these allergies. Because I mentioned this yesterday, I lost the war. Buddy, I've lost 2 wars.
Yeah.
I golfed last night, and as the sun starts to go down, all of a sudden I'm like, it's not like dark, but it's lower light. And I went, oh, crap.
You can see it?
Well, not just that. I couldn't see.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no. Like the combination of like my eyes being like rubbed raw and red because I'm a child and I just continue to rub them until they...
We know how that goes.
Yeah. But then I realized I took my glasses off, did one of these back and forth 10 times. And I was like, oh, no. I'm 40, low light. Like I was struggling to track the ball.
Am I cooked?
I was like, is my prescription? First thing, my prescription's not good. And I'm like, oh no, I'm old.
Well,
I'm
you're old and the environment was conspiring against you. We'll go with that.
But this was my eyes are complete trash. One's 20 -400, the other one's 20 -500.
Okay.
My eyes work independently. I have astigmatism.
I have astigmatism, but I don't have it. I don't need the assistance nearly as much as that.
Yeah, I have one far-sighted eye, one nearsighted eye.
I'm the same
That's
way.
got to be fun.
Oh yeah,
I'm the same way. Mine aren't terrible either way, but it's just enough where they need some correction.
Yeah.
yeah. Mine. So I had to do this. I don't know if you had to do this, Rust. I had to do this drill where this is perfect. You take the tip of a ballpoint pen. And you concentrate on it until because I naturally have double vision.
Danny, I think they call this a sobriety test when the officer.
Yeah, no. I will stone cold sober. I will fail it.
Can you
Yeah.
recite the alphabet backwards?
So I
I
did.
couldn't do it sober. I mean, what?
I got pulled over once, and he thought I had been drinking. And what had happened was I dropped something in my car,
Sure.
and I did a quick swerve, grabbed it, but it was like 1:30 in the morning. I was actually coming home from doing TV, and he goes, "Do you mind doing a field sobriety test?" I go, "I'll tell you what, I'll do it, and then I'll blow in a breathalyzer."
Because the
I'm
first
like-
one you're going to do,
I told him flat out,
that's not gonna work.
I'm gonna fail.
Yeah.
Like 100%, I'm gonna fail this because my eyes don't. What ends up happening is this doesn't really work on radio, so I'll describe it. Is naturally I have double vision, but because I did this for 10, 15 years as a kid, I would literally sit there in class and do this back and forth, and I had to start it with about 18 inches from my face and then work it in, like pull it closer to my face. And what ends up happening is eventually it will just pop into double vision. But I had to keep it there as long as humanly
to
possible
try to get it
to try
the
to
eyes
train
correct.
to
or-
try
yeah.
to train my eyes to where
Okay.
it would do it naturally.
Did it work?
It did for the most part. Like I don't see double vision unless I relax my eyes,
Okay.
which is why it's actually really hard for me to wear glasses for a long period of time because your focus point in your glasses is the center.
Yeah.
Where contacts, it's just
It's
it's
the whole,
the whole lens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is this is very in the weeds. But I would be sitting there and people would be looking at me in class like, "What is this idiot doing? Like going back and forth with this pen?" It's just like, no, I'm just blind. I have to learn how to keep my. Well, I tell you what, when I got glasses when I was 12, and I will remember this line forever. I'm driving home from the optometrist. I'm not driving. My mom's driving, and I look out into this field in Hillsboro, and I go, "Oh my God, I can see individual blades of grass." And my mom just starts sobbing because nobody had any idea that I was that blind.
Yeah.
I don't know how I made it through all the elementary school vision tests. or
Well, I
anything like that.
imagine you get to a point where that because that's your normal for so long, you don't think to tell people that oh, this is a real problem for me. You're
Well, I was
this
a
is just how
nerdy
it
kid.
is.
I sat in the front row.
Yeah.
I was always a front row kid. I was just a complete dork, and it was just one of those things where I would do this and squint a little bit, but I process audio.
Sure.
So I don't I can have my head down and not look at the board and
Yeah.
stuff like that, the way my brain works. But it was funny. It was I was a pitcher growing up.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, my strike zone got a lot tighter when I got glasses. I stopped drilling kids in the middle of the rib cage.
I swear I threw that in the zone. Yeah, it was the wrong zone.
Yeah,
You're
no,
seeing
it was-
two of them
you're
again.
seeing two of them again, and it was one of those things where it was just it was so dumb. But yeah, I felt in that moment I was playing with a younger kid. He was trying to find his ball, and I could not. I'm like, bro, I can't help you. I can't. I'm like, no, that's not. I'm doing the hard old man squint, and it was rough, brother.
I'm notoriously bad at tracking my golf ball anyways, even when I hit good shots. So you give me allergies, low light, it borders on disaster very quickly.
I will say though, I played Charbonneau for the first time in maybe a decade. That was actually, I think, maybe the first course I ever played up here. That place is immaculate.
I love Charbonneau.
It's an executive course, so it's super short. But the groundskeepers there are the same ones they have at Langdon, which for those that don't know, Charbonneau's literally across the street,
Right
from
down
Langdon.
the road, yeah.
It is the most well kept old people community course I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's a par 68, no par fives.
No par
But
fives.
they have 3 9-hole courses, so you kind of get to rotate them, and the greens fees are reasonable. The course,
Dude,
as you said,
it's $26.
yeah.
$26.
For really quality golf, if you don't
And you
need
can
all the
you
yardage,
can walk it because it's flat as hell.
Yep.
And it's I was telling you before the show. This is for the first time since my hip surgeries. I walked the course yesterday, and my calf's a little tweaked right now.
But
Because
tip of the cap, that's
Yeah.
a milestone, man.
it's hopefully by the end of my goal is by the end of the golf season that I can walk Chehalem. Not carry the bag. We're pushing. We're pushing. We're not
even
carrying.
So,
That's a tough.
because
the slope.
you get the peaks and the valleys.
I think Chehalem might have the biggest slope in the state.
It's possible.
It is nuts how many peaks and valleys there are through there, and for a course that's not in the mountains, it's just because it's literally in the Willamette Valley.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, like I said, I've become a full on golf psychopath. So
I saw this Reddit post, and it seems apropos here. Do you have any phrases that you go to when your buddy hits a crappy shot, and then you have to comment something? So you want to, like, you're not going to totally drag him, but you also want to be encouraging, but you also don't want to be disingenuous. Like
it depends on how many crappy shots they've had during the day.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
that's fair.
First one, I'm dragging him.
Yeah,
Dragging him.
Sure.
You know, we're having a little bit of fun. If the day's going in the basket, then you're throwing a jab, but it's lighthearted. It's much more if it's going really, really sideways. It's like, hey man, it's all right.
That's
golf.
The top one I saw was where your buddy blades it going into the green, and you go sit, and you're like, that sucker ain't sitting.
No, that's a great one. The guy I was playing with yesterday, I had that shot. I hit a freaking 3-wood off the tee, smashed it down the fairway, and I joked to him, I'm going to step up with this freaking 60-degree, and I'm going to blade the hell out of this thing. And he's like, nah, you're good. You can't hit a shot like that and then follow it up, and then freaking smacked it into the back of the green. I'm like...
The other one my buddy always uses is, I think it opens up over there when your tee shot is errant, and you're like, hey, I think it opens up over there.
But people actually say that to me because, like, I spend a lot of time on the right side of the fairway, and you do, like, you got to get lucky, and if it does open up, like, you get a lane, you know, you get that lane, and you're like, hell yes. But yeah, no, it's been fun. But I saw there was like the best like one-liners, and I saw one was like missing a short 4-foot putt. It's like, it's the old Danny DeVito, the old tough 4-footer. And I was like, ooh, that's a good one. I'm keeping that for later.
I like that.
Yeah.
The Danny DeVito. That's solid. And then the other one that people use, it's akin to the bite, but the bite or the sit, where you know that isn't happening.
You know what's irritating is when you think it is, though. Like the kid I was playing with yesterday was pretty solid. He had a couple shots that, short game where it looked like he had a ton of backspin on the ball, and it, goes way up. Looks like it's spinning, it hits, and then it just releases and goes forward. And you're like, what the physics on that didn't seem to make sense. But yeah, I always, especially with people I don't know, because I live out in Newburgh, it's harder to get guys to come out there. And so I do a lot of solos. It's actually been really fun.
I like playing solo golf.
I've met every group I played with. I played what, eight times so far this season, and I've gone solo, I think 6 of them.
Nice.
And, I've had a blast. No, I've played 9 times because I've played with a couple other guys 3 different times. So, every group I've been in with has been awesome. It's been really cool to just go out there. Like one guy I played with was a scratch golfer, and that was a little frustrating just watching him hit.
Can be intimidating for sure. Although sometimes it makes you elevate your game a little bit too if you're trying to keep up. And you're like, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to clear that creek 230 yards out but it can push you a little bit too.
It was also it was fun to watch a guy just have a swing that pure.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because if you've never played with somebody that good. Unfortunately, I have 2 friends that are around that area, and I do play with them, and I hate playing with them because they're so damn good.
Yeah.
But you just see a guy who looks so unassuming. Found out later he was a hockey player, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Same kind of hand-eye, coordination kind of a deal. But his swing, it doesn't even look like he's swinging hard.
Yeah.
But everything is perfect rhythm, perfect tempo, perfect pacing, and it just every time he hit the ball.
That's my dream. It's just is not the dudes who go out there and just absolutely mash, but there's this one dude, I think he's from Japan or Korea, that his viral video pops up on X or Twitter every now and then, where it's he just it looks like he could fall asleep during his swing, and he just pipes. It's unbelievable.
You talking the dude of the range?
Yes,
it's Kawakami or Kawagiri or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
We're talking about the same guy.
Yeah, but his swing is insane.
Yeah, it's just soft and smooth.
The club looks like an extension of his body. Everything works in concert, and you're just like, okay, stop. There's a whole method behind his swing, and it's just it's not like the prototypical golf swing, but it's so pure and perfect. You're like, I want that. I want to be able to do that, but it's you don't have the hand-eye coordination or the flexibility or the motor skills to be able to even come close to replicating that.
So I don't know that people out there know this about you and I, but we've actually worked together a lot, just
Yes,
not in
just
this
not here,
capacity.
yeah.
So we've been at the same place of business for something like 5 or 6 years
Yep.
because Danny and I first crossed paths when we were both at NBC Sports Northwest doing Blazers coverage. I was producing, he was hosting Blazers Outsiders, and we met along the line there. But having not done this dynamic before, and I know you've kind of been like speed dating through this thing, I have come armed with a few icebreakers today.
There we go.
So the one I want to kick it off with, and Rusty, I want yours on this too. Perfect pizza topping. When you are making your own Danny pizza to order, what's going on it?
Look, I mean, everybody goes with pepperoni, but that's a standard.
And doesn't have to be one. You
No,
you
no.
can throw 2 or 3.
This is how I knew my wife and I, when we were dating, it was gonna work. Like, this is such a stupid thing, but we've talked about this. We were gonna have a movie night and we wanted to order pizza, and I'm thinking, oh god, what does she want? Like, is she gonna want something stupid on here? You know what I mean? It's just like,
I hope it's not something I hate. Yeah.
She goes, how about pepperoni jalapeno? And I was like, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Solid.
Told the wife. And so pepperoni jalapeno, if like I have two pizzas that I go with, my always go with, either pepperoni jalapeno or chicken and bacon.
Okay.
Those are like the two that I go with.
We'll do a chicken and bacon sometimes. If we do that, we'll go with like either a barbecue sauce or a
Yep.
ranch sauce. You know,
I
some
go,
sort
I
of
go
a
the,
white one.
I go with the barbecue sauce. Yeah.
A lot of time, what we do too is we'll hit the old Papa Murphy's, you know, good old Love at 425,
Mhm.
and we'll do the cowboy, but with the creamy garlic sauce
Oh,
instead
okay.
of red.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can dig it. I am from like childhood, my favorite pizza, and it's kind of remained the same. Not pepperoni, but salami. I tend to like the flavor of the salami just a little bit better.
I'm down.
Salami, sausage, mushrooms, and black olives.
Okay.
The mushrooms and black olives, not for everyone. Sometimes it's a texture thing, but
honestly, that's what I was raised on. My dad was pepperoni, mushrooms, olives. So like it's
that's basically a cowboy pizza.
essentially so. Yeah.
I'm 100% down with that. My mother-in-law, she has some dietary restrictions,
Okay.
and so we had an event at my in-laws a couple weeks ago, and she got like a smaller personal pizza, and there was broccoli on the pizza, and I was like, yeah, no, I can do a lot of things on pizza.
Sometimes it just doesn't feel right.
And it was just like, I was just looking at it, it was like broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, and I'm like, she's vegetarian, or pescatarian. I can't remember one or the other.
Some Aryan.
Yeah, something around those lines. But I was just like, yeah, dog, I can't. Look, I've done the anchovies. Like, I'm. It's not my jam all the time, but like,
Not for me on pizza, but I'll do it with the Caesar.
yeah, I mean that's fine. What else we got in there?
How about best sandwich, hot or cold? Or you can pick one of each, you know, because I almost count those as different categories. Like your cold deli sandwich versus you can have it any kind of hot
Cold sandwich, undefeated. The Italian.
Okay.
The Italian is undefeated. Salt and vinegar chips on the sandwich. That's my go-to if
Okay.
I'm ever sandwiching. Hot sandwich though, I had a cheesesteak at McMiniman's, the Cornelius Pass one this
Mhm.
weekend, and I forgot how much a really good cheesesteak is good.
That was going to be my
Like-
number one hot sandwich pick.
It is.
Love the cheesesteak.
It is not. It's a heavier sandwich. Like, so it's one of
Oh,
those
for
things,
sure. It's a
but
gut
like-
bomb.
But it's like the occasional one. The cheesesteak really is just a banger. It's an absolute banger.
Yeah, one for me where I go, if I see it on the menu, it's always either a French dip or a Cubano.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm big
Mm.
on the Cubano. The French dip, I feel like can be kind of, it can be a little lacking if it's not done. Like they're like, oh, we give it to you with the jus, so we don't have to do anything else to the sandwich.
Yeah.
That can happen, but
You got to
a
have
good-
cheese on there.
a good French dip,
Yeah.
pretty solid.
That's where the bread matters more.
You got to have a good
Yeah.
crunch on the crust.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
And
so
I
it
like-
holds together.
And I like it with the horseradish.
Mhm.
That's where we're at.
We will get to some more icebreakers coming up, but we do need to get to some sports. And there was a number of things that happened on the diamond last night, including when getting hit in the face is the most impressive thing you did. That's coming up. Danny and Friends, 1080 The Fan. Welcome back to Danny and Friends. Silly me, I forgot it was a Wrestling Wednesday. Love Wrestling Wednesday.
Oh, absolutely.
And for me, this will be a little bit of an education too, because I definitely got into the wrestling craze as a kid, but it came on probably later than it should have. Most of my buddies were into it in like 3rd, 4th grade. And whether it was because my parents didn't think it was the best television for me to be watching or other circumstances, I just didn't get into it till like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. It was like the NWO split with the Wolfpack.
Oh yeah, I think everyone our age.
All that
did.
stuff and beyond in my wheelhouse, but a lot of that early stuff doesn't quite hit for me. So I might need the Jeff Rust historical reference from time to time.
That was a Big John stud there when he was at early mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got into it early when I was a little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, and then kind of went away from it. And then in the era, the bad boy era, like that's the attitude era. That's when I think we all did it some fashion or another. That was the interesting thing about wrestling, especially for our age range. No matter what you were into, whether you were a nerd, whether you were a jock, whether you're anywhere in between, whether you had nothing to do with sports and whatever, you still. It was so transcendent. You knew what it was.
It was an easy thread to connect everybody.
Yes.
Everybody could be a part of it. It was like for being raw testosterone laced. It was still kind of for everyone.
Yeah.
Whether you like the bad guy, the good guy, the acrobatic
it was the last
guy,
kind of bit of monoculture.
Yeah.
Really, like it for whatever reason, like the canceling of it all. Like Michael Jackson was the last artist that was like truly monoculture, just took over the world kind of a deal. I think that period of wrestling was like the last time like you could talk about just men in general from like the ages of like 10 to 50 were all watching or at least partaking in that era of it in some form or fashion.
I did a little bit of butt kissing in my algebra class because my Midwestern middle-aged algebra teacher, Marjorie Yergin, she was a big wrestling fan. And so every Tuesday after Raw and every, I guess would have been Friday or Thursday after Thunder or whatever, I would come in and I would shoot the breeze with her about the drama in the McMahon family or whatever. And I'm confident it upped my algebra grade that year.
Look, no one had to grease those wheels. It's that's something you need to learn and to understand because that's people skills right there.
I don't want to be the person that says wrestling isn't a real sport, but let's pivot to some more traditional sports. And I want to talk about a couple things from the Diamond last night. More moments than anything else, but I saw something that impressed me so much. And I couldn't think of an instance of something so impressive that's such a negative thing to have happen to you. And that was George Kirby on the mound last night. Started the season on the IL. It has not been going well. He took an 11.42 ERA out there last night.
That's not very bad.
He was losing the game. He was pitching okay. And then 95 pitches in, he catches a 103-mile-an-hour line drive right back off his face. That sucks. I hope he's okay. It sounds like he's going to be. He didn't go down.
Yeah,
the guy got absolutely smoked, and he did not even go to a knee.
When you told me, I was like, oh, I missed that last night because I was golfing, and I pulled up the video clip, and in the first part of the clip is in slow mo, and I think it's like a 96-mile-an-hour slider of all things. It's like, oh my god, that thing's moving, and it's outside the zone, and he barrels it up right back up the middle, and it catches Kirby. I thought like, oh, if he catches, it must have just glanced in if he didn't go down. No, dog. That thing caught him square on the jaw.
Yeah.
I mean, he's bloodied up afterwards. And it's like, how, number one, is he not hurt more? Like, how is he not busted open?
How's he not just laying on the ground?
How is the jaw not broken? How is their teeth not missing? How is, the nose still attached kind of a deal? And then you're like, how the hell did he not go down like a sack of bricks?
Yeah. It was... Listen, some baseball players tougher than others, and George Kirby just gets the hat tip from me now. Because
is he a hockey player?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. We'll have to dig into his past and see what other sports he played.
Look, we always talk about tough guys in sports. There are no tougher athletes on this planet than hockey players.
I think so, too.
Like, you get guys who have literal, like, rows of teeth knocked out, jaws broken, noses broken, nasty lacerations that like they get stitched up in game, and they're not out for the game. They come back out and they've got, instead of having an open face, they've got a closed caged helmet now.
Dude will require like potentially a dozen stitches, and it's not whether I'm coming back, it's will I make my next shift.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
And you're just like, dude, I've never I grew up with a few guys that ended up playing in the NHL for a long time.
Oh wow.
And Paul Gostad went to Beaverton.
Okay.
Was a longtime center for the Buffalo Sabres, played
Okay.
for the Olympic team. He was their face-off guy. I've never met a hockey player that had all their teeth. Not a single one.
I bet. Yeah, that
Not
tracks.
like you see guys like Ovi. Ovi, like
Yeah.
he's missing like 6.
Oh, yeah, it's basically the front 4 plus a couple more.
Yeah, and you're just like he does interviews like post game without his
Mhm.
fake teeth in.
Mhm.
Yeah, they all got the summer teeth.
Yeah.
Some are there, some ain't.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, dude, you guys are nuts. And it's always funny when you see like injury reports in hockey. It's one of two things: upper body, lower body.
That's right.
And that's all. You never know. Like it's like and they play through basically everything.
All of it.
You're just like, there's something ingrained in them. And when we talk about the toxic masculinity or stuff like that, like these guys are just taught from the time that they're 4 years old.
Yep.
To play through it.
Well, they're the same guys, honestly, that get their bell rung and won't tell a soul.
No.
And it's what the sport has bred to a degree. I do think the sport has done a lot better job trying to make it safer. You see way less fighting than you used to.
You don't get the cross checks to the head, the Sean Averys of the world. Aren't out there
Exactly.
causing
It doesn't make it a
Ty
safe
Domi.
sport, but it does feel like they found a happy spot right now. And we'll get into it a little bit later because we do get game 1 of the Stanley Cup final coming up tonight with the Oilers having the chance to break the Canadian drought of lifting Lord Stanley's Cup.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday. If anybody in Canada is going to do it, I want it to be one of the lesser quote unquote Canadian teams, not the marquee franchises in Toronto and Montreal.
But by the same token, you have Connor McDavid, who is kind of a marquee guy.
Sure.
And so even
And
though
Draisaitl,
Draisaitl for sure, but I think that the way McDavid has been kind of painted as like the
he's
face of the
he is
league,
the face of the league.
that would be it'd be great for the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great for hockey. We'll get into that a little bit more later. We're already up against it, so we're gonna get on to our NBA Finals preview. I have some questions about this series. It seems like everything is stacked in the Oklahoma City favor. The analytics will tell you that, but what are the things that we don't know about this series? What are the different ways this series can play out? We'll discuss that coming up on Danny and Friends, but first, Rusty with SportsCenter.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final this evening in Edmonton as the Oilers and Panthers square off for the second straight year. The Oilers looking to become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since Montreal in 1993. Coverage over on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. The puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT. Oilers are minus 120 on the money line. ESPN Shams Charania are reporting the Suns hiring Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as their next head coach. Ott started as a video coordinator for the Hawks and also served as an assistant for the Nets and Lakers before spending last season in Cleveland. On the diamond, the Mariners hosting the Orioles again this evening after dropping the series opener last night. Emerson Hancock on the bump for Seattle. Cade Povich for Baltimore. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now a half game behind the Astros in the AL West. The Rockies finished off a 3-game sweep of the Marlins, their first sweep since May 13th through 15th of last year against the Padres. They are 12-50 now on the season, on pace for a record of 31-131. And Game 1 of the Women's College World Series tonight in Oklahoma City, Texas and Texas Tech in a best-of-3 series. First pitch at 5 o'clock on ESPN. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Welcome back to Danny and Dusty, Danny and Friends. Today, a Danny and Buck edition, and it's time for us to get into the NBA Finals. I know you've been doing so throughout the week, but before we do that, it's icebreaker time. What's your go-to sports movie, Danny?
Ooh, go-to sports movie.
Like if you want to pop on one that is like an all-time favorite to just run it back, what are you throwing on there?
God, there's so many to go to, but Remember the Titans.
Okay.
Remember the Titans is so good. Just there's so many people in that movie.
Yeah, the cast is unbelievable.
It's unreal. You get left side, strong side. Football ain't fun no more, is it? You know, Denzel is so good. I mean, it's sunshine, sunshine. I mean, there's just so many incredible scenes in that movie. It's just, but it's also probably like the most unrealistic of like when they play the football.
Yeah,
It's-
sure. It's a Disney-fied a little bit.
It is, and as much as it's god awful and nowhere near reality, Any Given Sunday.
Yeah, I remember that as a movie theater experience on the big screen with all the sound and the way it felt like the way they shot that and edited that was different than anyone had done a football movie before.
It's an Oliver Stone movie, right?
That's right.
That's why it has that.
And it
feel.
felt frenetic and
Yeah.
violent, and it, at least for me as a teenage kid, like painted football in a way that I didn't really know it, and I'm like, this might not be real, but this is awesome.
I mean, the guy's eye getting gouged out, the eyeball in the turf. You're like, okay, that's-
Yeah, maybe not that part.
The Al Pacino speech, you know, is an absolute.
The 6 inches right in
Yeah.
front of your face.
It's just an absolute banger. Lawrence Taylor with a chop saw cutting a Hummer in half, like.
Cutting a Hummer in half, and then also knowing he could be on the verge of death with any hit, and then he goes out there anyways, and he goes, "Now I got my $1 million."
Yeah, just like, you know, now we look at that like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But it's a terrible movie, but I love it.
It's great. Rusty, what do you got?
I
Sports
think
movie?
you got like your Rocky movies.
Okay.
Those are, you know, upper pantheon for me. Major League is a classic.
Yes.
And then I'm gonna have to throw Happy Gilmore in there too. I realize that might be a stretch on a sports movie.
No,
but
sports movie.
I
No,
think
that
that's
is
in there.
In fact,
Hockey and
two
golf.
sports. That's right, hockey and golf. We were just talking about hockey. I'll go Miracle. I love the underdog story.
yeah.
I love the undertone of patriotism. I thought that the Kurt Russell,
Kurt Russell was
Herb Brooks was
great.
so good. I love that movie. And then my underrated sports flick, Cinderella Man. Russell Crowe, Depression era boxing.
I've never seen that.
It's a really good
Okay.
movie. It is a true story about a guy who is down on his luck in the Depression, making fights to try to make ends meet for his family, and goes on to do amazing things. Really good. Russell Crowe, Renee Zellweger, Paul Giamatti is
Okay.
like the promoter in it. He's great. Worth a watch for sure.
Text line Sandlot. I mean, yeah. I mean,
That was
there's-
my next like nostalgia pick.
Yeah, that's the thing is like when you're talking nostalgia picks, Sandlot, Major League.
Yeah.
I mean, Euchre in that is in Major League is
Mhm.
to me, like, don't be wrong, Charlie Sheen and Wesley Snipes and all that. It's great, but it's about Bob Euchre.
Euchre
and
makes the movie.
and it's about Pedro Serrano.
Yep. That's right.
Bat no light curveball.
Bat hit straight ball very far.
You trying to tell me Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
I like the Jesus.
Let's get it.
Well, and apropos of nothing, real quick here.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that we mentioned Kurt Russell a minute ago, I saw a thing on the old interwebs the other day. The name of his stunt double in Escape from New York. And they showed a picture of them both with, you know, he's dressed as Snake Plissken with the eye patch. His stunt double's name, quite possibly the manliest name ever,
What do we got?
Dick Warlock.
Wow, that's great.
I hope that's his real name.
Right?
Like it's not a stage name.
It's probably just Richard Warlock.
But I mean,
But Warlock just alone as a like, you got to go with
you've
the
got some
stunts or
well, you've got some options there. You can be
true.
Rich Warlock.
uh-huh.
You can,
That's
or you
right.
can be
Ooh.
Dick Warlock.
Yeah.
Well, look, if
Or-
if your given name is Richard Warlock, there really is only one option.
Dick Warlock is the way to go.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the NBA Finals. I know that you guys have got to some of this week, and I feel like there are plenty of national storylines out there about this series that people have already beaten to the ground. Small markets,
Yeah.
OKC lopsided
Seventh
favorites.
new champion, all those things.
all that. But I also think with each of these finals, even if we know how they're going to go, or you think you know how they're going to go, first of all, do you think that the Pacers can or win this series?
I think there is a path for them.
Okay.
I do, and maybe it's my blind optimism, faith, bias because I love Halliburton. I'm literally wearing a Halliburton T-shirt right now.
Well, let's do that first then. What is the path for the Oklahoma City or for the Pacers against the Oklahoma City Thunder?
The Pacers play at their frenetic pace, and they are disruptive enough of OKC that they can force them into a team that it's weird. OKC's offense is rated third in the league this year,
Mhm.
but stylistically, they don't get to all the way to the rim. Because Shea lives in that short paint area
mhm.
and then the mid range, and J-Dub does a lot of the same. Chet spaces the floor. Isaiah Joe's a shooter.
Mhm.
Caruso's really not a guy other than in transition that's going to finish at the rim. Same with Lou Dort. Like, as much as we talk about how this team is so diversified, it's really only two guys that can really put the ball down on the floor and hurt you, and that's Jalen Williams and Shea.
Mhm.
And if the Pacers can turn them into a 3-point variance team, because that's like 3-point shooting can come and go. We've seen that demon hit the Celtics from time to time in a
Yep.
game or so.
Absolutely.
Because the Pacers need to find a way to steal a game.
Yeah.
I am of the mindset that if the Pacers are going to have a chance at the series, they have to steal one of the first two games.
Okay.
They have to get home court out of the way.
Sure.
Because OKC's home court is
great.
nasty.
Best in the league, right?
It might be right now. I'm a little, I say that begrudgingly, because they pipe in more noise than anyone else in the
I didn't
league.
realize that.
Them and San Antonio are 1 and 2.
Huh.
They're the loudest arenas in the league.
And you're
from
allowed
the
to? I know in the NFL they've banned that. The
Yeah,
Colts
no.
and Falcons got in trouble for that.
Yeah, they pump in so much noise, and the PA guys are loud, obnoxious. But their crowd, it's
legit.
on 10 the entire time. So like I do have to give them that credit. But beyond that, in the two times that the Pacers and the Thunder played this year, Halliburton had two of his lowest usage ratings of the season.
Okay.
But the Thunder played without Chet. And it's like, okay, how do they kind of fit him in there? How does that work? It's like it's an embarrassment of riches to a point
Sure.
when you're talking about how good they were even before Chet came back fully healthy after the hip injury. But I look at Halliburton's got to be the guy that he's been consistently through the playoffs.
Right.
Like he's going to have one of those nights where he has like 9 points.
But he's got to stay on that
assists.
general level.
But he's got to be the 20 and 10 guy, and he's
Yeah.
got to do it with efficiency, and he's got to keep the pace. But the guy that's singularly most important is who's the guy that guards Pascal Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was Mark Dagnall, I would probably flip my bigs, and I'd try to put Hartenstein on Siakam because
Okay.
Siakam wants to go to the rim more,
Right.
where he could probably bully Chet. And even though Chet's long and he can block shots, I think you want to have him more as a rover. And you want to turn, if you're the OKC, you want to turn Miles Turner into a volume shooter from three. And
Sure.
now, don't get me wrong, he can
get hot,
get hot, and he's a good enough shooter out there. You do have to worry about him.
but you're more comfortable with him beating you than others?
Than Siakam,
Yeah.
because Siakam is the guy. You remember, Siakam, he wasn't a huge part of that Raptors team, but he won a title with the Raptors. Like, he knows what this looks like.
Yep.
He's not unfamiliar. He's an All-NBA guy.
And he played great in the last round. He's turning it on.
That's why he got the Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
Yeah.
Did you see that clip where Hallie?
I did.
Hallie thought he won it.
By the way, as a Halliburton for Series MVP better,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love that.
He definitely looks around like, yeah, it's me. And then they say
He's
Pascal.
about to walk up there to
and
accept
he's like,
the trophy.
Ah,
He's like,
not
yeah,
me.
oh.
But he did the right thing. He's a celebrated
course.
teammate and all that. But I look at Pascal Siakam's got to be huge for them. And then, they always talk about the others in a series. Your stars have to show up, but Neesmith's going to have a game.
Mhm.
Nembhard's going to have a
Mhm.
game. TJ McConnell's going to have a game.
Mhm.
Like, you're going to have to, because OKC is relentless with their pressure,
Mm-hmm.
that if you're the Pacers, you have to find a way to get those easy buckets that you've gotten all playoffs long,
Yeah.
where OKC is really good about not allowing that to happen.
Yeah, and I read a lot and hear a lot about OKC's pressure and just how much they're turning people over. How much does that affect what Indiana wants to do?
Then that's a huge part of it. So one of the things that the Pacers are kind of proud about this year, it's not just the. I heard Kirk Goldsberry and Zach Lowe talking about this earlier this week, and it's been kind of the thing that in the analytics community, the Pacers, yes, they play with pace, but it's how they play with pace.
Mhm.
And I was glad to see the broadcast highlight the basketball stuff. And, against the Knicks, so much of it was about they score off of makes. And
Mhm.
so what's really interesting is, and this gets kind of into the weeds, but in basketball, off of makes, when you can capitalize the most, if a team spreads the floor and their big is in the corner, and their point guard or their lead ball handler is finishing at the rim,
Can beat those guys down the floor.
guess who your first two guys are supposed to be back?
Yeah.
Your
Your
big
deep guy, your big guy.
You're
to protect
big
the rim.
under the rim to
Yep.
push things back out, and usually one of your lead guards
Yep.
to pick up the ball first.
Yep.
And so what the Pacers do is Jalen Brunson spends a ton of time in the paint, and Cat flares out to the wings. And so what they would do is like Obi Toppin or Pascal Siakam, they're going.
Yep.
Like as
You
soon
saw it
as
a bunch at the end of that series.
As soon as that ball not up in the air, but you're pretty sure
You're starting to lean.
You're starting to lean. And Chauncey Billups has a line that I think is really great. Is what they enforce with the Blazers. What will make a break a transition opportunity, either defensively or offensively, the first 3 steps. And if whoever hits the first 3 steps back the fastest, that opens it up. And what the Pacers do, it's not just Halliburton; it's the whole bleeping team.
Mm-hmm.
If you flatten out your offense, especially late in the clock, whether it's a miss or a make, they're going.
Yeah.
And if they can continue to do that, because what that does is twofold. One, you can't hit the offensive glass as hard unless you're an ungodly great offensive rebounding team, and the Thunder are not. So I don't think it's something they're going to rely on.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you have to have it in your head of like, once the ball goes up, you got to find a body.
Yeah.
And that like mental wear and tear of doing that for 110 possessions, you're bound to get got.
Yeah.
And so you got to stay focused. You got to stay focused. And I'm like, if I'm the Pacers, that's the thing. If I can continue to do that, that is something that you can fall back on, because that's not something they've done in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's something they've done now for 90 games.
Yeah.
Or 100 games damn near now.
It's a tall task for the Pacers, but the way you outline it, it doesn't seem impossible. Unlikely, probably.
It's unlikely. Don't get me wrong.
But I
The Thunder are the
see
third
the
highest
ways.
favorite in the modern era.
Yep. And I heard this stat coming in today too. Only 2 teams seated outside of the top 3 have ever won the NBA championship. That would be the Rockets team from 95-96 that traded for Clyde Drexler midseason, and then you got to go all the way back to the 60s and one of the Celtics.
This would
teams.
be a monumental upset. I mean, the Mavs upsetting the Heat were the last time we had a monumental upset. You could maybe say the Cavs coming back from 3-1 as being one of the biggest upsets in NBA history. I don't think it'll be something like that, because if this series gets to 3-1, OKC is gonna.
Yeah, because then they're coming back home for 5, and yeah,
Good luck. And then that's why they have to steal that game, and then if you don't hold it home, you got to at least split it home.
we'll talk about betting angles a little bit later, because I like to look at everything sports through that lens, and I think there's some interesting propositions out there for how this series script runs. We'll get to that in the third hour of the show. But coming up next, Tibbs is out in New York. Should the Knicks give Peace a chance? Danny and Friends, 1080 The Fan. Welcome back to Danny and Dusty. Danny and Friends, a Danny and Buck edition today. Coming up next hour, we'll, of course, have the worst day on the web for you. But something I saw on the interwebs post Tibbs firing out of New York. One man has thrown his hat in the ring to save the team. His name, Meta World Peace. He has
Coach Meta.
He is
Or is he
changed.
Coach Peace? Coach World Peace?
I would like it to be Coach Peace or Coach World Peace, but he has changed his Twitter alias to Coach Meta. And he tweets, Meta is the perfect choice for the head coach of the New York Knicks. Since 1999, this was supposed to happen. I've never ran from the city. When all the top players left NYC because it was hard, I went to St. John's basketball. I wanted to be drafted by the Knicks. I seem to be the only one unafraid of the city. I'm built to challenge the city. I'm the number one guy for the job. I have 360-degree experience.
Here's, we talk about like MSG in New York and the Mecca and Rucker Park and New York legends. Who's the last guy to like come out of New York? Like real, like
Boy,
it's because you had Telfair and you had Marbury and you had Artest.
Yeah,
it's been a while, but he is New York. Like he's
New
through
York
and
hoops
through
culture for sure.
New York.
For sure. What's he always say? Queensbridge?
Yes.
That's his spot that he was always shouting out in post-game interviews. Obviously, Meta World Peace not likely to be the Knicks' next head coach.
Although, who the hell are they going to go with?
That's kind of my question for you. Not that you have a crystal ball to look into, but I've now seen rumblings that a lot of the stars there had been angling to get Tibbs out for a while, and two, that they're really keen on Steve Nash. Is that something that would make any fit? How much runway do you give the players to have an opinion on this going forward?
Right now, Steve Nash is doing the exact thing you should do to become a head coach, which is hop on LeBron James's podcast. It worked out really well for JJ Redick.
It sure did.
But I also think Nash is a brilliant basketball mind. The part of the it not working in Brooklyn with him was his refusal to play another player's friend. And the same thing happened with Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah.
Their refusal to play DeAndre Jordan because DeAndre Jordan was no longer good, and they had a guy named Jared Allen who was a lot better. And so that caused friction among a million other things. You talk about KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. But I think Nash could be a great coach, and he's definitely going to have the respect. Like that's like it's the Chauncey Billups thing. Like
sure.
you're one of them once.
Yeah, you've done this as well as anyone else, so therefore everyone believes that you can and can lead and all of that.
And he didn't come into the league as a star. He had to kind of earn his stripes, and then had multiple MVP years, and he's got the bona fides. Now, what would his offensive system be? And this is the thing that I talk about when you're talking about coaches and fit and like getting guys to make sense. Is Jalen Brunson going to turn into some version of 6 seconds or less Suns? No, that's not his game. That's not his game. And like, how do you adapt that? And how do you get Karl-Anthony Towns to fit? And how do you've got two, negative defenders in Brunson and Cat. So can you play a system that makes sense for you offensively that also feeds into your defense? Like, you can't play a style of defense that is, you look at OKC and like, oh, they do it. And I'm like, well, they do it differently. Like, they're aggressive.
Really aggressive.
They're hyper aggressive, but they're not hyper aggressive offensively.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, they get out in transition, but they're not a team that it's not like, you're a Warriors guy. They're not going to get out there and move off the ball, and get into a ton. Like, when you think of OG Anunoby, is that a guy you think about cutting effortlessly all game long?
No.
Bridges, sure.
Yeah.
So you've got one of them. Is Cat,
but that's not their collective style.
No, and is Cat a guy who's going to be a blocker mover type? No, like he's a 7 foot, 270-pound big. Like, yeah, he can shoot the living hell out of the ball and he plays in the post. But you look at your two best offensive players, they want to play in the half court. So this whole idea of like, oh, if they get a coach, they got to get, they got to get better with what the things they do.
You better find someone who meshes.
Like, you got to find somebody that can highlight two guys that aren't going to be hyperactive in the half court. They want to be on the ball more. And they're like, well, you need OG to move off the ball more. I'm like, no, you don't get guys and go, hey, this thing that you do, we're going to ask you to do something different. Like, that's the whole point. And that's like, firing Tibbs to me is not enough. If you're going to fire Tibbs and you're going to go a different direction,
you got to make a bigger change.
You got to move Cat. Like that to me is like, if you want to fire Tibbs, fine. I don't agree with it because he's been the best coach you've had in a literal quarter of a century.
Yep.
And you've achieved more success than you have in a quarter of a century. If you think you're just going to bring in a coach and that's just going to change things, especially either a young coach or a first-time head coach, good freaking luck.
Well, with a guy who now people are saying wasn't buying in on the defensive end, wasn't fully committed to the things that Tibbs wanted to do.
Oh, no way. The same guy that wasn't committed to the exact same things that he wasn't
the exact
committed
same
to,
coach in the
exact
last
same
city?
coach in the last city? Yeah, it's like shocking.
So what's going to, like you said, what's going to change? And you might need to change out one of those pieces.
Like, again, firing Tibbs and then running it back mostly the same, good luck. But if you're also going to make a pretty sizable roster move, okay, I get it. But then, are you going to have the coach in place and he's going to have his feedback on what guy they should go get that helps it make sense? Or do you make that move and then hire a coach? Because here's the thing. As we get closer and closer to the draft and the transaction cycle and free agency, you want to have your coach in place because their guys are going to get gobbled up.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're stuck with either who's unemployed or trying to pry somebody who just took a job with somebody else, which it does happen, but extremely rare.
No, but it feels like picking a chef for your restaurant and then handing them the bag of ingredients and say, cook this. And you're like, well, wait, but my style as a chef is this type of cuisine, and I'm not used to working with this.
Yeah,
So,
and-
like, what do you do?
And that's the part of this. And, I've heard that, Johnny Bryant, who we used to be on Tibbs' staff, was a finalist for the Suns job. The Suns opted to go with Jordan Ott. But, that's a guy that they're familiar with.
Yep.
So I could see them going down that path. And I've heard Frank Isola yesterday said that the Knicks are looking at Jason Kidd,
Okay.
which I'm sure Mavs fans are thrilled about because they want him gone.
Okay.
Um,
So I'm looking at an odds list here, too,
Mhm.
and I think the odds list can often tell you just who may be close or who may be in discussions. The top one on the list is Michael Malone, plus 150.
which, again, is Michael Malone this huge offensive guru?
It seems like you're bringing in a different version of Tibbs. Like cut from the same
If I'm not
cloth, at least.
mistaken, Tibbs or Malone is a New York guy too.
Mhm.
Um,
But you mentioned Johnny Bryant. He's on there, plus 350. Associate head coach for the Cavs. Jay Wright is a name that we've seen popping
he's
up.
not coming back to coach. Are you kidding me?
And that may be the case, but I wanted to hear you say it.
yeah,
And
no, I mean,
you go further down the odds board though. Dan Hurley.
I don't think he's the king of the castle at UConn, and he just got that bump on his contract. Like, the Knicks could buy him out, sure, but
Let me rapid fire you a couple more. The Steve Nash, by the way, 100-1 odds on that.
that's pretty far out there.
Monty Williams, Taylor Jenkins, Budenholzer, Rick Brunson, Jalen's daddy, and John Calipari, all 20-1. Any of those make any sense?
No.
Van Gundy, Jeff Van Gundy, 25-1.
I could honestly, I could see that, but also Jeff is super close with Tibbs. I don't know if he takes that job out of respect for him.
Sam Cassell's another name that's been getting
Big
some
ball
run.
Sam. Look, Sam has been in the coaching cycle for what feels like a decade now, and the fact that he hasn't gotten a head coaching gig has been surprising to me at multiple turns. Because around the league, I've never heard somebody say things to me about Sam that I was like, oh, I get it. It's usually like, he should be a head coach. So maybe there's something there that I don't know.
And not saying that he is like, but people had those same questions about Eric Bieniemy for why is he not getting a head coaching game? He seems so great. He seems so great. There was something there with Bieniemy.
We all know why.
Yeah.
He's a giant a-hole.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not saying Cassell is that.
No, and
but
I've never heard that
people
about Sam.
don't really know why Sam hasn't gotten that shot yet, and maybe this is his first
Maybe
one.
he's not great in interviews.
Possible.
Like, there's plenty of guys that are like that don't have necessarily the charisma up there in interviews, but also Sam Cassell is known synonymously with big balls.
Yep, that's right.
That's all the charisma I need.
And isn't that a fit for New York City? Gotta love
Can you
it.
imagine? Brunson hits a game winner and Sam Cassell just goes on the floor and they both start doing the big balls dance.
Speaking of Major League.
I mean, you got no marbles.
That's right. We got to turn the page. Want to talk a little bit of football. Coming up, what team or player do you want the real behind-the-scenes story about? We did get a peek behind the curtain from a franchise here in the Northwest about a fight in the locker room, and it's juicy. That leads off hour number 2. Danny and Friends right here, 1080 The Fan.
This
From the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final coming up this evening in Edmonton as the Oilers and Panthers square off for the second straight year. The Oilers looking to become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since Montreal in 1993. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Suns hiring Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as their next head coach. Ott started as a video coordinator for the Hawks and has also served as an assistant for the Nets and Lakers before spending last season in Cleveland. Over on the Diamond, the Mariners hosting the Orioles again this evening after dropping the series opener last night. Emerson Hancock starting for Seattle, Cade Povich for Baltimore. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now a half game behind the Astros in the AL West. And the Rockies finished off a sweep of the Marlins. Their first 3-game sweep since May 13th through 15th of last year against the Padres. They are still 12-50 on the season, on pace for a record of 31-131. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Portland, if you've ever wondered where to get your Blazers, Ducks, and Bees, it's right here on the airwaves of 1080. 1080 The Fan with Danny and Dusty. It's Danny and Dusty and Rust from noon till 3.
Every time I hear that open, it makes me smile. That is a sensational piece of production. Jeff Rust, you deserve more kudos for that than you get, putting yourself out there with the voice, the dulcet tones.
I'm right.
It's a beautiful thing.
I told the old boss, Jeff Sacramento, I was thinking about doing that, and I was like, do you want to check it out before I air it? He's like, nope, he's like, just put it on the air.
I like that even better.
Yeah.
I trust you.
Yeah.
Go for it. Got a couple more icebreakers that I want to get to before we dive back into the world of sport. And actually, maybe this one connected to our next story. Danny, what do you remember about your first fight?
Oh God.
Or can you remember your first fight?
Yeah, first no joke fight where I got in trouble in school. It was 5th grade. Kid named Willie. I won't say his last name because I don't know what he's doing these days. I was a littleman growing up. I was always, because I was a year and a half younger than everybody else. And I remember I had enough of this guy's crap. And he was damn near a foot taller than me. And I just cracked him in the nose after he pushed me.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad always had this thing, and I think a lot of parents probably our age had the same thing. Don't ever start a fight.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get in one, you better damn sure make sure you take care of business.
Sure.
And it was one of those things where the big bully got put in his place. I mean,
you got him.
Nose bloodied. I mean, it was a wild swinging 5th grader's fist, but he shoved me to the ground. I got up and popped him, and I got suspended.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first suspension.
Sounds like you well earned though.
Yeah, that was my first suspension. But I unfortunately have spent nights in barred institutions on various continents for fights that I did not start but participated in.
Oh, then we might need to peel back the onion a little bit more later on that, or maybe they're international incidents that can't be discussed. But I am intrigued for one.
Yeah, no, we had a full-on Roadhouse style brawl in Germany.
Wow, over what and with who?
So we were coming back from overseas, and we stopped.
And you were in the Middle East, yeah?
Yeah, we stopped at Frankfurt International Airport, and they put us up at the Frankfurt Airport Hotel, which I think is a 4-star hotel. It's really nice.
Okay.
And we went down to the bar, and we were with some Aussies who were rotating out too, and we had worked with a little bit, and so we were blowing off some steam at the bar there, and we're looking around. It's the wrong crowd, this is a little too nice for us. So
sure.
We asked around about where we should go, and we went into this bar in Frankfurt, and this is the period of time where a lot of people in the world did not like us, just the U.S.
Just in general, sure.
And we all look the same. We're all tanned, leathered, jacked, all the testosterone in the world. You could tell who we were.
Sure.
And a guy started talking some noise to a buddy of mine and spit in his face. He, my buddy.
That's usually a good match to throw on the gas can of kerosene.
Yeah, and it was what's funny is he kind of shoved the guy, and then he got laid out by another guy, and that just turned into a full-on brawl. One of the guys involved literally drop kicked a guy through a plate glass window.
Oh, that does sound like Roadhouse.
Oh no! I mean, when I say it was out of a movie, man, it was out of a movie. I saw a guy get a bottle broken over his head. I was like, oh, this was like 50 people.
Jeez.
It was bad. Bar stools and anything else that could be thrown gets thrown. It spills out in the parking lot, and one of the guys is with us is a massive human. He's about 6'8", 270.
Okay.
Has fists like ham hocks, but a big gentle giant. But a guy reaches up from behind to kind of grab him and calm him down. We found out later. He spins around and hits this guy in the face harder than I've ever seen anybody get hit. You know, when right inside the orbital bone, you just see the guy's face collapse, and it makes this crunch sound. When you see a UFC fight, you hear that crunch.
Yep.
It basically stopped everybody in their tracks, but then all of a sudden lights kick on. Whoop 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 whoop.
Yeah.
It was a cop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he hit the cop?
He hit the cop.
Oh,
it was
no.
a plainclothes cop. All of us get thrown in the van.
Mm-hmm. And that's how many of you?
15 of us.
Okay.
We all get thrown in the van. A couple vans. We get thrown in holding for, I want to say 5-6 hours before we eventually get out. All the charges were dropped.
Okay.
Everybody who was a bystander
vouched for
what happened. We were just chilling, and it turned into that. And
is there any internal reprimand after that?
Well, a lot of wall-to-wall counseling.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of running until your legs gave out and your insides were outside. A lot of extra duty. Nobody got any ranks taken away. Nobody got any fines. Nobody had any paychecks garnished.
So to a degree, all's well that ends well?
Yeah. Some guys were definitely worse for wear on the way home.
Yeah.
Some stitches were had. That was the biggest fight I've ever been in.
Okay.
Hands down. But I've been in a lot of fights in a period of time. Didn't come up a winner. I got socked in the back of the head at what used to be McFadden's downtown. Again, a buddy of mine, hot-headed, got into a fight. I stepped in, and I got dropped like a sack of bricks. Didn't even see it come. Somebody literally hit me behind the ear, and I was out. There's a 10-minute period of my life that does not exist.
Dang.
Oh, yeah.
See, I've never rolled like that. I will step up to defend a friend, but I tend to be the diffuser in a lot of those situations.
I'm not great at that.
Yeah, and I'll talk. I'll run my mouth, but I generally know when to stop, and that is and so I don't get myself into many fights, and then when fights are breaking out among others, I tend to be the one that tries to dissipate things a little bit. But let's get to a professional fight, and one, you've heard about the drama surrounding this team and some of its personnel for a while, but we talked a little bit before the show. I know that right now the in vogue thing is the behind the scenes kind of in real time show, your full swings, your hard knocks, your stuff like that. And while that's great access and that's fun, I think the best and the juiciest stuff is the stuff that people don't want to say, that they don't want seen, and then as enough time passes, they're finally willing to let some of that slip, let some of that be revealed or whatever. And so what we have here is Golden Tate. He went on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. Here he is with Will Compton, and he's talking about Percy Harvin, who had been injured throughout the season for the Seahawks and the eve of the Super Bowl.
All right, so first off, Percy's a different guy. He's a different guy, and something goes off in his mind, and once he makes his decision, ain't no going back. And so we get to the Super Bowl, and, you get all the media, and they're asking these questions, and they ask all of us, the receivers, and they ask me and say, hey, so what does it mean to have Percy Harvin back? It's like, you know what? I love Percy's game. I think he's awesome, but the truth of the matter, we haven't had Percy the entire year, and we've made it this far. We can't wait to get him out there because he's definitely going to make us even better. But look, we've done it without him. We're fine. At some point, he read the article, someone read the article and told him the bullet points, and he took huge offense to it. And at the time, I didn't know this. So we show up on a Saturday before the game on Sunday, and I'm just saying, what's up, Percy? What's up, Sid? All my homies. And Percy just kind of got this look on his. He's just got this look like I'm just not having a good day. I'm like, bro, you good? He said, I'm cool. Just give me some time. So finally, I go back up to Percy. He's sitting just like this in front of his locker. And I get low to the ground like this, like, hey, Percy, bruh, like, what's going on? Like, let's just chop it up, talk to it. He's like, bruh, if you don't get the fuck out my face. And I just said, all right, f*** it. And I just turn around and start walking the other way. Next thing you know, boom. He tackles me from behind. He tackles me and his head is like right here. I land on my shoulder, jacked up my neck, and I just got him here and I just started trying to punch him. I don't know if I punched him or connected or anything at all, but I was kind of holding him. They pull us apart. Pete Carroll, Josh Schneider, the GM, talked to me like, what happened? And so I tell them like what happened, and you know, they deemed that I'm not the issue. They separate us and we go our separate ways that day. We showed the next morning for the Super Bowl, and Percy acts like nothing had ever even happened.
That's not surprising if you've watched anything around the University of Florida.
Yeah.
Anytime Percy Harvin has like talked publicly or anybody else has talked about Percy Harvin, like Percy Harvin, obviously, you know, the whole thing about him smoking before every game. Number one, I have to get this out of the way. I don't care if what you do and how you do, whatever, this, that, or the other. Do not tell me you do anything better high.
No.
You don't.
That's the person who said, I actually drive better after I've had a couple beers.
No, you don't. No, you don't. This whole like, oh, you know, it took away my anxiety. I'm like, brother, get a Prozac. Like,
yeah, talk to a therapist and get a prescription.
Like, get something else. With that said, and again, I don't care if you do it. You're an adult. Go do whatever you want to do. Like I mentioned it before. I've to cut into my painkiller intake for my broken body. I take edibles. I don't care.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of like I play better high. No, you don't. Stop. But that also gives you the frame of mind of who Percy Harvin is. He's an insane person.
Yeah.
Like anytime you talk to these guys or hear about these guys in the NFL that are like unhinged, whether it be Debo, you know, James Harrison, he's a certified psychopath.
Oh yeah.
Ray Lewis, bonkers crazy. Lawrence Taylor, out of his freaking mind. The guys that are on the fringes of the NFL or just, you know, competitive sports, they're bat-ass crazy. If so for, you know, Golden Tate, like he showed up the next day like nothing was ever happened. That's the least surprising part of all of that.
Yeah. And it's also, though, I think enigmatic. I don't know that people know how much this type of stuff just happens through the day-to-day of competitive sports where you have these high-T dudes who are ready to go.
There's
and
so many
everyone, there's so many feelings involved in competition.
Covering the Blazers. Everybody's like, oh, you should report, you know, the things you hear. No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
Well, so this, and it's funny, and I have a question for you on the Blazers about this specifically. This made me wonder, like, what team's stories do you really want all the juicy details to come out about?
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of those, but the one moment that stands out for me, just because I think it's hilarious, is the Festus Ezeli speech in Portland.
Oh,
the one where Festus Ezeli had come up, he'd been the big signing from the Warriors, and then he needed surgeries, and he wasn't ready to go, and the Blazers are in a little bit of a funk, and gets up in the locker room, and he's basically like, guys, you know, we just got to come together. This is what we got to do. And CJ's like, dude, shut the F up. You ain't even played yet, man.
Yeah, like, and those kind of things, you know, that even when that happened, that didn't leak out immediately. Like, CJ and Robert Covington.
Oh, they had a thing?
They did not like each other.
Interesting.
Did not like each other.
And based on, do we know what based on, or just didn't vibe? Like,
yeah, mostly just that. You know, Cov was, you know, made some all defense teams. The way it was told to me was, you know, CJ kind of tried to check Cov, and Cov was like, "What have you done?" And like, I've got hardware, dog. What do you mean?
Yeah. Okay.
And it was, you know, one of those things, which is
battle of the egos when you get there. Yeah.
I mean, this
stuff happens everywhere
all the time. This is not me like talking trash about CJ.
No.
This is the stuff that just happens. Like, that's actually what's been kind of crazy is the Blazers locker room over the last couple of years.
They actually get along.
What a part of their staff or a ethos is they do go after, they target character, and like their one wild card in the locker room is DA.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But his wild card is not, I'm going to fight you. It's just, you just don't know which version of DA is going to be there.
Are you going to get the guy who punches in or not?
Yeah. And like, that's their wild card. But I mean, Shaden, Scoot, Ant, JG, T, like Tease is probably the biggest a-hole in the locker room. And I say that in the most like adoring fashion. Like
because he's honest and he keeps people
like, and
accountable.
It's like he's very level and like to the point of like where you kind of wonder like there's a little something there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he's a total smartass. A lot of deadpan, and if you say something stupid, he'll tell you that's stupid.
Yeah,
and it's like, and I honestly I love that about him.
If delivered to the wrong person, that can hit the wrong way.
Yes.
But if you know the person and you know that's how they roll, that kind of direct, blunt nature is very much appreciated by a lot of people.
Tease is very much like it's on the road all the time.
Yeah.
But no, when you're in locker rooms and you know like guys have beefs, and you know the Blazers teams of yore had issues. And I'm not even talking about like the Jailblazers eras. I'm talking about the Brandon Roy teams.
Sure.
Like there was the whole Steve Blake, Andre Miller thing that did not go well. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that's happened over the years where, I mean, hell, you'd go to just a couple years later with a mutiny. I mean, Jamal Crawford is looked at as this guy who's like the nicest, greatest guy ever, and he's beloved. Like he was a major part with Marcus Camby of leading a mutiny on an NBA team and getting Nate McMillan out of there.
Yeah.
And it's like I have this thing, is coming full circle to Seattle. If you're a professional sports player who's from Seattle, you're insane. You're insane.
Yeah. Let's see about that.
Michael Porter,
Yep.
DeJounte Murray, Jamal Crawford, Brandon Roy has a little bit of crazy. Like, just go down the list of like professional athletes. Zach LaVine, like these guys are all nuts. They're all nuts.
I never
Every
really
single
put that
one
together.
of them.
Is it the rain and the depressed circumstances? What are we talking about?
Like,
here?
it's just, if you just look up like professional athletes from like the Seattle area, and you just kind of like look at the collection of them, and you're like, every one of these dudes has got something a little bit off. It's super weird. I don't know if it's just like being up there, the grunge atmosphere, or what Seattle generates, but like it's really weird. Like I've gone through and I'm like, you see any names in there that are popping out to you?
Well, let's see. I've also got Apollo Anton Ono, the short track speed skater.
But he was a bit of a weird cat.
Yeah, I mean, and Freddie Couples, the golfer, he's known as a different dude.
Yeah.
Nate Robinson.
Crazy.
Yep. Jason Terry.
Crazy.
Yeah. Jaden McDaniels.
Crazy.
It stands to reason there is something in the water up in Seattle.
Seriously, man. I don't know what it is, but like, and then you talk about the Seattle football team, like Marshawn Lynch, crazy.
Yeah.
Cam Chancellor, crazy. Earl Thomas, crazy.
Russell Wilson, his own brand of crazy.
Crazy. Richard Sherman, crazy. Michael Bennett, crazy. Like the number of dudes that come through Seattle for whatever reason is a crazy magnet.
Well, so we talked about fights and specifically those that happened behind the scenes. One of the big ones in my time covering the Warriors was one that happened between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant behind the scenes. It was essentially the beginning of the end of that short run that Kevin Durant had there. There was lots of infighting. A lot of stuff didn't come out from that fight in the locker room, but it was the final season he played with them after winning, or actually after going down in the finals. But Kevin Durant is another piece that I don't think we've talked about yet. Yesterday, a lot of time on Giannis and where he could end up next. But I have questions about Kevin Durant, the domino. How big of a deal is his next stop, and how much of an impact or ripple effect will that have on the league? Is he going anywhere? We'll talk about it next. I was about to say primetime. No! Danny and Friends, 1080 The Fan.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to
Welcome back to Danny and Friends. Ryan Buckley is sitting in today alongside Danny Marang, Jeff Rust on the other side of the glass. And we're talking a little bit of NBA now, and specifically dominoes that are falling. And it feels like, obviously, Giannis is the very big domino to fall, as rumblings of him being a trade target of a number of contenders continue to percolate. But the other one that I'm really curious about, and I don't want to say concerned, but interested in, is what happens with Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, because they go out and they get a new head coach today. They get Jordan Ott, the assistant from the Cavaliers, who, if you haven't seen him, looks like a young Timothy Oliphant.
Yes.
But that is a situation down in Phoenix that has been so bizarre because they've given up so many future assets. They've got a new owner who has tried to go for it and swung and missed spectacularly. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting a new coach in there, and you've still got this superstar there that can be one of the elite premier scorers in the league, but he's definitely getting long in the tooth, and his last stops to try to go chase a ring haven't gone especially well. So what is next, and what happens for Kevin Durant, and not just predicting where he goes, but how much of an asset is he in the league now? How hard will he be pursued?
So this all starts with Giannis, because that is the domino that everybody's waiting to fall, and where he goes will be a massive shift of power.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that the favorites are Houston and San Antonio.
Okay.
I would be pretty shocked.
This is for Giannis, not for Durant. Yeah.
And the Houston part of this matters for Kevin Durant in some sort of fashion, because Houston, like, the picks they have are the Phoenix Suns picks. Remember, when they gave the Nets a part of their future back, they took the Phoenix capital in return. That was a part of the KD trade from Brooklyn. So if some form or fashion the Phoenix Suns want to get some of their future back,
mm-hmm.
that might be as part of that deal. Or if it isn't a part of that deal, it becomes a secondary deal, much like when the Blazers traded Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. Them getting Drew Holiday and holding that key that ended up unlocking the title for the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
But the Blazers also got their Bucks picks. So to kind of tie this to the Blazers a little bit, I'm, again, a firm believer that one of New Orleans or Portland will be involved in a Giannis transaction, because those are the two teams
as a third party,
because they control the Bucks' future.
Yeah.
The Pelicans control the immediacy. The Blazers control the next era after that. And so where Kevin Durant goes, it's like, depending on where Giannis goes and who goes where and what other moves are being made, that is going to, like, it's going to define the landscape that we go into this season. What's really interesting is, do the Bucks drag this out the way the Blazers did, where it was 89 days from Damian Lillard's trade demand until he was traded?
Actually did it, yeah.
Which was right up against the season, which how many other teams can wait that long?
And then you're also playing a game of chicken to a degree. Are you starting to see your return lesson a little bit if you've already played hardball with people?
Or does somebody get
more desperate, depending on either injuries, things that are happening in training camp,
or somebody else
see.
Makes another move
Sure.
here or there? And here, with Kevin Durant, what's crazy is, if you look at Kevin Durant's season, right? Just look at his career. If I told you that Kevin Durant, he's 37, about to be 38, I believe.
That sounds right.
Yeah, his birthday September 29th. Last season, the guy averaged 27, 6 and 4 on 53, 43, 84.
God, those are great splits.
In his 36, 37-year-old season.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing. It's not what LeBron's doing at LeBron's age.
We've never seen anybody score this efficiently at this age.
It's remarkable, and clearly could help someone right away win a title.
And his game is not predicated on, I need to blow by you. It's,
Nope.
I'm 7 foot tall.
I can just go
and
over
I'm
you.
maybe the best pure scorer the league has ever seen.
Yep.
And you can talk about Michael Jordan. You can talk about LeBron.
No,
you
but
can talk
his
about Kareem.
tools, his physical tools mixed with his game, next level.
He is unreal. And he doesn't need anybody. He can do it for anyone.
Yeah,
it does not matter what
it can
system
be
you're in.
Part of a team like we saw with the Warriors.
Yep.
It can be totally his own thing, as we've seen other places
independent of everything. He is one of the most unique players in NBA history, because he can shoot from 3 on volume at an incredible rate. He's maybe the best mid-range shooter the game has ever seen. He's still elite at finishing at the rim because he's 7 foot tall. And even though he's getting older, he's still 7 foot tall, so he can afford you some defensive rim protection.
Yep.
He can be a help defender. Does he move like he used to? God, no. Who does at that age? I mean, well, LeBron, but that's, neither here nor there.
Yeah. One of one.
I've heard Minnesota pop up so many times. And yes, they do need somebody else that can score consistently and create and balance the floor for Ant Edwards. But the thing they need more to me is another creator. And KD, while a good passer, he's not necessarily a ball stopper, but he's a scorer in the purest sense. In the sense that he is great in isolation. He's very good in pick and roll. But when he's going to get the ball, he's not going to.
The first thing he's going to look to do is score.
He's not going to pound the air out of it. And he's not going to stop it entirely.
Right.
But
it's not a Brunson situation.
No, it's not going to. But when he's going to get in his bag, he's going to get in his bag. Hezzy, tween, pull up Jimbo. The whole the LeBron thing of like you didn't have to do my guy like that. His bag is great, right? But you look around the league, and there's not a team in the league that can't say like, we'd take Kevin Durant, but because of the second apron, because of the salary restrictions, because of the CBA, it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes. And I almost guarantee it's going to be after Giannis.
Okay.
And even more than that, everybody in the league that I've talked to over the last month, everybody believes that beyond Giannis, beyond KD, there is going to be a bunch of trades because trades are the currency of the current CBA.
Yeah.
Because cap space is irrelevant. Only the Nets have it. This free agent class right now is not that good. And with Giannis kind of signaling that he probably wants out, everybody's going, okay, here comes the arms race. So I'm nearly certain Kevin Durant is gone because I don't know if you noticed in all the PR that came out about the Jordan Ott hiring, everything says Devin Booker was very much involved with the process. You know whose name is missing from all of that? It's Kevin Durant.
It's a glaring omission.
And that's on purpose.
And here's the other kind of interesting thing from the betting angle is right now Phoenix is still the odds-on favorite to be his team at the start of next season. That's at plus 220. After that, you've got the Rockets plus 275. You mentioned the T-Wolves there plus 650.
I don't think he's going to Houston. That's not
well, and especially would he go there and team up with Giannis if Giannis went there, or would it be they missed out on Giannis and that's their second option?
Even then, even if they let's say Giannis goes to San Antonio, which is fairly likely.
Great look.
Yeah. But beyond that, I still don't think they go for KD because they want to have more than a year or two. The guy that they wanted for the last couple of years is Booker. And that, to me, that's the only way the Suns would get their draft capital directly back.
Is by letting go of Booker?
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to do that.
That seems unlikely. We got to turn the page. The worst day on the web is coming up next, but first, Rusty at SportsCenter.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final coming up this evening in Edmonton as the Oilers and Panthers square off for the second consecutive year. The Oilers looking to become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since Montreal in 1993. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. The puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT. Oilers are minus 120 on the money line. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Suns hiring Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as their next head coach. Ott started as a video coordinator for the Hawks and has also served as an assistant for the Nets and Lakers before spending last season in Cleveland. Mariners hosting the Orioles again this evening. They dropped the series opener last night. Emerson Hancock on the hill for Seattle. Cade Povich for Baltimore. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now a half game behind the Astros in the AL West. And the Rockies finished off a sweep of the Marlins, their first 3-game sweep since May 13th through 15th of 2024 against the Padres. They are 12-50 on the season and on pace for a record of 31-131. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's back. The 11th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club happens Tuesday, June 24th. Presented by your local Toyota dealers. Reserve your foursome now at 1080thefan.com. It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
That sucks.
All right, Buck, you and I were talking about this one a little bit before the show. I love a good celebration.
Yeah.
I love me a great celebration.
Sure.
Smoking everybody on a track meet and then using a fire extinguisher on your feet
Pretty
because
original.
you've smoked everyone. Mwah! Well, the old fuddy-duddies did not think so highly of it, and they stripped a gold medal from a participant for excessive celebration.
Yeah, this was down in California.
This is whack.
16-year-old, she wins the gold medal in the 400 meters. So you're going one time around the track. She dusts everybody. And like you said, feet on fire. She has the celly ready to go with the fire extinguisher. And there's video of this. And you know what? Funny little bit. It affects the race none. However, that excessive celebration caused them to strip her of the medal and of the victory. And listen, I get that sports have gotten to a place of grandstanding and taunting, celebrating, dancing that maybe past generations aren't super comfortable with. But it's just the evolution of things, and this doesn't seem. She didn't do something to an opponent. She didn't belittle somebody. She didn't taunt somebody. She won her race. She took care of her business. She celebrated on her own. What's the big deal?
I love bat flips.
Yeah.
I love touchdown dances.
Yeah.
We're all around the same age. We were all raised in the respect the game
Sure.
era, but also celebrate.
Yes.
There's a act like you've been there before. I didn't score a ton of touchdowns in high school football. I did the same thing every time. Toss the ball to the ref.
Barry Sanders.
Look, I was a fullback. It was a lot of straight lines.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing sexy about what I did.
Oh, don't sell yourself short.
But we had our celebrations on the sidelines.
Sure.
We had the things we did, and it's like, this is cool. Like,
this is fun. It's original. And again, it has nothing to do with her opponents.
Chad Johnson and T.O. having the stuff ready to go in the goalpost.
T.O. the Sharpie in his sock. Chad Johnson, the Hall of Fame jacket on the sideline. Joe Horn with the cell phone underneath
Yes.
the field goal.
Like, all those things are awesome.
And a lot of people hated him at the time, but they didn't say your team loses the game now because of it.
No, because we like the whole respect for the game thing. Like, I love it when a soccer player scores from 30 yards out on a free kick and then does the most stupid thing imaginable.
Sure.
Cristiano Ronaldo has the jump up in the air,
The kind of
arms
the splash,
out,
the star splash kind of a deal.
Yeah. LeBron James doing the powder before the game, or doing the double chest pump down, like. Love Jalen Brunson doing the three fingers.
Why do we watch sports?
Tyrese Halliburton doing the choke.
It's real life theater every day, and people playing into the dramatics of it. If you are causing some harm or inflicting something really negative about
taunting
the
your
people,
opponent stuff, like,
and even that, like some of that in the spirit of competition is fine. I get why you need to draw a line on some of it, and I can even understand or sympathize with maybe track people or sports people that just don't like that she did that. That's fine. You don't need to take her win.
Not only that, stop her.
Sure, that too. Don't like it, stop him.
Dame, who's kind of held up as like the gold standard of like professionalism in sports, all the endorsements and how he's looked at. That's the same guy that waved bye-bye and told Chris Haynes he was just waiting to whoop Russell Westbrook's ass.
Yeah.
Like, that's the spirit of competition. I didn't want to talk about this without saying this. This is in California. This is high school in California, the CIF championships.
Yep.
Did you see, this is not worst day on the web, this may be best day on the web.
I think I did.
Did you see the time that came across for the 100 meter?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Take a wild guess what
In Oregon?
No, California, which is, this is a high school senior.
100 meter dash.
100 meter dash.
Ooh.
And wind certified. So it wasn't a crazy tailwind. It was within the specs.
10-4.
10:01.
Woo!
High school kid.
God, that's cooking.
30 years ago, that's Olympics.
Right. Yeah.
This is a high school kid.
My God.
10:01. I want to make sure I get his name here.
And do we know where this kid's going? Where he's going to school?
Oh, sorry, he's not even a senior. He's a junior.
Oh my God.
At De La Salle.
Okay,
Which-
I know De La Salle
De La
very
Salle,
well.
pretty good program.
Yeah.
This was his fastest time PR by .29.
Does he play football too?
I don't know.
I wonder.
I mean,
A lot of times those track kids also.
I
do,
will show
but
you a picture of him. This is him on the left. So I'd say yes.
probably.
Uh,
That is sensational. My
but
goodness.
10:01 from a 17-year-old.
Okay, let me pivot on you. You tell me which is. They're apples and oranges, so I won't say more impressive. But we talked about this briefly. We had the longest day in golf earlier this week when people are trying to qualify for the U.S. Open, and it's 2 consecutive rounds in the same day at all these qualifying sites. 17-year-old kid who is still 2 years away from going to college. In his 2 rounds, he goes out and he shoots a 63-63 to qualify for the U.S. Open. 63-63 among everyone else trying to get into the U.S. Open. He goes 18 under, and he will be teeing it up next week at Oakmont.
I shot 20 over an executive course yesterday.
Yeah. And this dude went 9 under consecutive rounds or something like that. It's bonkers. It's bananas. The fact that
That's
people
so
that age
nuts.
can do things like that, unbelievable.
So he is a football player. He's 5'9", $165. So
Okay.
we're talking about who was the burner at Oregon about that size? Not Barner. D'Anthony.
D'Anthony Thomas.
Same
yeah.
same kind of deal.
More
He-
diminutive.
He's an athlete. He's as far as you're talking about recruiting, but he's committed to Jordan Hudson's North Carolina Tar Heels.
Oh, interesting. Coach Hudson out there.
Yeah, Bill Belichick.
Side of
Yeah,
Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you see the other part about that? That Jordan Hudson had been around Bill Belichick since as early as 2021.
Yeah, well, I what I'd heard, and maybe we'll continue this on the other side of the break. There's some interesting smoke going on there with UNC, Bill, and Jordan. And yes, it does seem as though she has tried to make it seem as though they didn't meet when they may have initially met, when she may have been a teenager.
Uh-oh.
We'll talk maybe about that, some more icebreakers, and there was one more track story when heckling, betting, and parlays get involved. We'll get to all that next. Danny and Friends, 1080 The Fan. Now, this is in my wheelhouse. I freaking loved Rey Mysterio. Loved the acrobatics, the luchador style off the top turnbuckle. Lots of great moves. That's Wrestling Wednesday music that I can get around. We are Danny and Friends. We are Danny and Buck today. And wrapping up our worst day on the web, I did want to throw in this little sports note. Did you see the wild upset that happened this morning?
No, I didn't.
Watching the clay courts at Roland Garros.
Okay, before you get going down this,
yes.
Calling the event Roland Garros pisses me off.
I know. And you know what? I agree with you. So, Nay, out at the French Open
there
today,
we go.
We'll go back to the old standby because it's what it should be
The French
called.
Open at Roland Garros.
That's right. And I don't know if you guys have played the clip. There's a great NBA and TNT clip of all three of those guys complaining about it.
It's the Masters at Augusta.
Yeah,
it's not Augusta.
You don't just start calling it Augusta National. I mean, that's where it is.
Yes.
And so that's accurate, but you don't change the name of the event.
It's very dumb.
We agree on that. Well, the quarterfinals has been loaded on both the men's and women's sides with pretty much all of your top seeds, with the exception of one of the women's players, and I had never heard of her until I guess 2 days ago when she won her fourth round match going into the quarters. Her name's Lois Bousson. She's French.
I've actually heard of her before because her name is so French.
Very much so. First of all, you don't hear of many people named Lois these days. We could afford to bring a little Lois back, a little Lois Lane. But Lois Bousson was a wild card alternate for the French Open. She's ranked 361st in the world, and going into the tournament was a 55,000 to 1 long shot. Not 50 to 1, not 500 to 1, not 5,000 to 1, 55,000 to 1 to win the tournament. She is on to the semis after advancing in straight sets over the 5-seed Mira Andreeva earlier today. Excuse me, the 4-seed Mira Andreeva. She is on a run right now, and I haven't watched her play much. I've only seen a couple highlights, but as just a fan of sport, I am always here for the Leicester City, the underdog story, go as far as you can. Now, she's going to run into a buzzsaw because she will get the world number 1 in her next match, and the one after that, I think she'll either get, she gets Coco Gauff, the world number 2 in her next match. In the final, she would get the number 1 or the 4-time French winner, Iga Swiatek. So this probably comes to an end soon, but what a cool story.
The thing about her, I remember hearing her name and being like, because it was one of those things where I just like, you have ESPN on the background or whatever.
Yeah.
And I heard her name and I was like, it's a lot like Buffon.
Yeah, like Gigi Buffon.
Gigi Buffon, the goalkeeper. And it's like, that's kind of what I thought I heard at first. I'm like, is this like a family member? And then I heard it was Buffon. And I was like, okay, it's not, no relation. And then immediately I was like, why is there a CrossFit athlete on the tennis court?
Yeah.
She's
jacked.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was just like, like, not in the way like Serena's jacked. Serena's just pure, unadulterated, like massive muscle.
No, I mean she does look like a CrossFit athlete, like everything toned, defined, like
neck,
and
shoulders,
muscle mass.
Yeah, and you're just like, but she's not as big as Serena, and I don't say that like in a negative context. Serena's just got a frame that you don't see. Women athletes.
Lois is a smaller individual, but she's packing on the muscle.
Yeah, and it stands out in tennis because so many, particularly not even just the women's side, just so many tennis players don't have muscle mass. Like, who on the men's side has ever really been built?
You don't. I mean, I think
they're all in great shape. Don't get me wrong.
And you and I were talking more about this earlier in terms of hockey. I think it's probably the littler guys. I bet it's the Michael Changs of the world because mostly you get long, spindly, like
Djokovic
sinewy.
is just rangy as could be. Yep. Rafa's rangy as could be. Even Sampras.
You don't get the stacking muscle guys.
No, Agassi was not a guy who, like, don't get me wrong, they all got shredded six packs because they're in incredible shape. But you don't see, like, particularly tennis players that are just built. And like, it's actually kind of funny because, some of the best female tennis players of all times, like Venus and Serena, are incredibly built. And it's like, that was also a big part of their game, is that they had a ton of power, particularly on the women's side. So, it's totally random. And I'm not a huge tennis person at all. Like,
and I'm not
racket
either.
Sports in general, never been my thing.
I try to keep up with the majors. There's no chance I'm keeping up with the year-round calendar of tennis.
For the French Open, I will watch, particularly when, Rafa was at his peak. Like, as much as people get tired of dominance, but when somebody's whooping so much ass,
That they have ownership of it.
Yeah, like that is their thing.
Yeah.
Like don't like they literally put his name on the court when he
With his footprint, which was really cool.
I mean, seeing him tear up for that was pretty cool.
And seeing his contemporaries out there with him, presenting him with that,
and
was
all
really
giving
cool.
him the nod of like, nah, man,
This is your
this
spot.
is your house.
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
that was always something I would tune in for. Like when you got into the quarters, semis, like just watch him just run roughshod through everyone.
Mhm. I
And
mean,
it
his
was
record there for so long. I mean, I think he went like a 3-year span without losing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
a set.
Yeah, a set. That's right. in a level of dominance we probably won't see in that sport at one venue ever again.
No,
I mean, it was otherworldly. You mentioned something at the end of last segment that, since we just have a couple minutes here, I wanted to pick your brain on. What is your take on the Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson, North Carolina situation? I mean,
It's a situationship.
it is a situationship.
Look, if I'm 74 years old, look, it is creepy, but like if you're old, rich guy and you want to go down that path, whatever.
Sure.
But the whole like how she's protected and how much influence this person has, who like the extent of her experience was she went to cosmetology school and
Yeah.
now she's like running Belichick Industries.
Well, she first got there, and it was Jordan needs to be CC'd on every email to me, including all about football. And like her hands and fingerprints are all over everything that they're doing.
This feels like new era and not quite as old Anna Nicole Smith. That's
Interesting.
like, and it's
There's
not,
a level
it's-
of meddling going on.
Well, not just that. It was like it's not as egregious because Anna Nicole Smith obviously was just doing what she was doing. She was
Yeah.
being
And,
the bimbo blonde with the big rack, and
the
he was like 90.
I was gonna say the guy that Anna Nicole linked up with, not exactly as spry as Bill Belichick, and Bill ain't exactly spry.
No,
so-
well, but hey, we've seen the photos, the multiple photos of the walks of shame for old Belichick out of the.
And to me, that's a really interesting part of that. I guess that video came out from an Airbnb, but like, who had access to that video, and why is it out there? And also, what was he doing?
I mean-
like, was he getting kicked out of the house? Did he was there a fight? Did another ex of hers walk in? Like,
all
what happened?
I can tell you, with what he was wearing and how he was walking.
Was in a hurry?
I mean, we've all. If you're a young single man, you've tried to make that escape.
But he's
before.
also Bill Belichick, so you don't have to run out of the house for anyone, do you?
I'm almost certain that video came out from a PI. Almost certain.
Yeah.
Because who else is doing that?
Well, right, but I think that it's not surprising that someone like him is ready for his young fling. That happens not just in the world of business; it happens around the globe.
Oh, yeah,
People
look.
decide that's what they want now.
Look, man,
but her level of involvement is the different part.
I was at a casino recently with one of the most high-profile athletes on the planet. He is in his late 50s. We're talking one of the greatest to ever do it kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
The two women that were with him definitely weren't 21. Two of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my entire life. And I talked to somebody else. He goes, yeah, he's got two of them and they're different every night. And I'm like, yeah, that's that world. Like
That's a world that I don't even begin to pretend to understand how it all works, but it's not uncommon for that industry or for that walk of life for those rich people, but it's this starting to seep into all the football and that narrative. And now obviously there's the big date on the calendar was June 1st, because now his buyout goes from $10 million to $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if they decide they don't like the way things are going, the ripcord's a lot easier to pull at this point. I don't think that is necessarily going to happen, but you also heard rumblings. If there are more weird Jordan things that happen before we actually get to the season, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, look, the whole bringing Belichick into college and being a disruptor, Dusty and I have talked about Deion Sanders and like how we kind of want him to succeed because he is bucking the system. Like it
would be nice if this
worked.
worked.
It'd be cool to see
and
Belichick
others did this.
But also at the same time, like,
Doesn't seem like a fit.
like that, the Jordan Hudson stuff of it all, like that is to me, it's just like, look, if you want to have your young hot, whatever, man.
Right, but
like
the young hot isn't usually that involved.
if I am at the board of trustees, the provost, president, whatever, boosters, I'm like, oh boy, like this is
Well, this is why you've seen all the things now with the Pablo Torre reporting of like, yes, there have been internal conversations with the administration, barring her from the building, barring her from activities. And then they're like, well, there's nothing in writing that says that, and we never made those statements. And like, there's all this infighting
if
now
Pablo's
there because
got it. He's got the goods.
It's because it's very real.
Yeah, and I will compare this to the on a much lesser scale. It is the military member that dates the stripper.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, we've seen this show before. We know how this works out, guys.
that little anecdote, or that example is perfect. This is exactly what that is. But then when the exotic dancer decides that she's going to involve herself in your stock portfolio and also your day to day at your office, and like,
And it's your first divorce.
yeah, that too.
And if you look,
Yeah.
when you're in the military, it's just like you just see it coming a mile away every single time. Oh, no, I'm the one, and this is going to be it. And how many Dear Johns and, things of that nature that I've seen. It's like, but they start, trying to meddle with things. And it's always, and I'm not disparaging all of the peelers of the world. You go do whatever you want to do.
Sure.
But like anytime you see that sort of behavior, I don't care where it's from. It's a tale as old as time, and it never works.
And there's always an agenda behind it. This isn't just because she thinks he's a great boyfriend.
yeah, I mean, she went to cosmetology school, and her mom sells like eccentric sex toys.
That's right.
Like, how many flags do you need?
There are plenty.
Look, this is a boat that is sailing under many flags.
Yeah, and some of those flags on that boat are about to run into the Brooklyn Bridge, as we just saw a few weeks ago. But we will try to turn the page and get back on the rails with some actual sports stuff. Coming up next hour, we do have Fact or Fluke, but coming up next, the NBA Finals pits two small market teams who are not in the luxury tax. Is that hopeful or hurtful for Blazer fans? We'll discuss next. Danny and Friends, 1080 The Fan.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final coming up this evening in Edmonton. The Oilers and Panthers squaring off for the second straight year. Oilers looking to become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since Montreal in 1993. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Meanwhile, the puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT. The Oilers minus 120 on the money line. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Suns hiring Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as their next head coach. Ott started as a video coordinator for the Hawks and has also served as an assistant for the Nets and Lakers before spending last season in Cleveland. On the diamond, the Mariners hosting the Orioles again this evening after dropping the series opener last night. Emerson Hancock on the bump for Seattle. Cade Povich for Baltimore. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now just a half game behind they are now a half game behind the Astros in the AL West. And the Rockies finishing off a sweep of the Marlins earlier today. Their first three-game sweep since May 13th through the 15th of 2024 against the Padres. They are 12-50 on the season. That is a pace for a record of 31-131. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new black 1080 The Fan hoodie, as well as classic long and short sleeve tees. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. This is Danny and Dusty.
It's not your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
I'm your huckleberry.
The Fan.
Hour number 3, Danny and Friends. Ryan Buckley in today alongside Danny and Jeff Rust doing the heavy lifting on the other side of the glass. Wrapping up the Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson conversation. I'll be fascinated to see how that season goes for him just from a football standpoint. Feels like there is a lot going on there. I have a basketball question for you in this segment. We'll, of course, get to Factor Fluke coming up and then some betting angles for the NBA Finals. Based on your analysis earlier, Danny, I'm interested in how you could potentially see this script playing out that could maybe win us some money. But first, I have a couple other icebreakers to get us to.
Do it.
Wild or exotic animal that you would domesticate to have as a pet? Throwing PETA and all that stuff out the window. Like you dream it, you can have it. It's at your house, ready for a cuddle when you get home, or a play out in the yard, whatever.
God, the raccoon's the easy one.
That's Sook's Operation Best Friend.
Yeah. Look, I'm on board with that. The trash panda is very cool. The murder kitten is certainly up there, and I heard. Somebody told me that the animal that you thought was the smallest that if you kill with your bare hands was a cougar, was like the minimal one.
Have
you ever seen an actual cougar?
This was based on one hiker fending off a sick cougar who tried to attack him on a hiking trail or something like that. I don't know. I don't think I could get over on a cougar. The story
that is a murder machine.
The story was born out of a man who I guess beat a coyote to death or something like that because he said the coyote attacked him, and then we looked at the size of the coyote and we actually thought this guy wasn't all that cool. It was a 25-pound dog.
It's like 25 to 35 pounds. Like
and they could be wild, they can be fierce, but
they got
still.
Some teeth, but they typically avoid people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's I wouldn't remember the TikTok account. There's a guy that injured predatory cats, like large cats. Like he tries
tigers, leopards, pumas,
rehabs them. Yeah,
sure.
He gets him to the point where like he's able these things curl up in bed with him. And I'm just like, that is a murder machine that if it just decides in the middle of the night it doesn't like you anymore, you're dead.
Yeah, you see that with some of these guys who have made friends with lions out on the plains and they'll sneak up to them at the watering hole and stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm never having that level of trust in another animal.
The Tarzan movie with Skarsgård, he goes up to lions. There's people that are like that. They have literally known these lions.
They're like, oh, I know that. That's Billy the lion. He likes it here.
And the pride ruler will let that person come up and just chill with them. And it's like, okay, that's dope as hell. That is so cool. But it would have to be either, like, if you're talking smaller, it's either a fox or a raccoon.
I love the fox angle.
Foxes are so damn cool
Because they're smart,
so
they're cool
smart,
looking.
and they just want to they do that little laugh.
Yeah.
Like they're just a cool pet. But if we're going bigger, it's some sort of murder kitten. Whether it's a cougar, jaguar's pretty high on that list because
They're so badass looking.
that's what I mean. Like just being able to like walk down the street with a jaguar not on a leash, and he's just kind of does his thing.
People are like, whoa. You're like, oh, he's cool. He's mine. He's all good.
And you're just like, wait,
He
what?
gets along with other dogs. It's fine.
100%. He's like, like that. It's always funny when you have like the weird like predatory animal and like domesticated animal. Like the dog and the lion are best friends at the zoo, and you're just like,
Sure they are. How does this work?
Like that's food.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Did you see the little Jason here? Did you see the zoo exhibit with the kids? I think it was here at the zoo. It was. I think it was in Oregon. It might have been in California, but it's definitely West Coast. There was a grizzly bear and it had ducks landed in the water.
I didn't see this, but I can imagine.
And it just paces and paces, and he just kind of plops down in the water and just whack. And so this kindergarten, first grade, second grade class, like, oh, he's swimming with the ducks. You can hear the teacher's like, oh no,
Oh, he's about to have a snack.
oh no, and he just humph and just mashes it into his mouth. The kid's like, oh god.
PTSD from your field trip to the zoo.
What are you going with? What's the domesticated animal here?
Yeah, fox was very high on my list because I think it's like the right size. You could have it around the house. It would still be really cool without being like a lot to handle. I also think that if you could have and train a bald eagle, that would be pretty badass. That could follow you around, come with you to places.
Birds of prey definitely up there. Like falconing is pretty cool.
They seem harder to like hang out with, and so yeah, for that reason, I do really like the fox. I will also say they're so goofy and adorable. Give me a penguin. I want a domesticated penguin.
Dude, yeah, that'd be that.
Mr. Popper's penguins.
I'm in on that. The other one in here, because dogs are man's best friend. Like a wolf.
Yeah, Game of Thrones style.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
this isn't my dog. This is my pet wolf. He's cool.
They brought back dire wolves.
Yep.
Have you ever actually seen how big those things are?
They're like
They're huge.
what do they weigh? Like 120, something like that.
I think they're bigger than that.
Are they?
They're enormous. Like if you've never actually seen, like, people think they've seen wolves. It's like no. Wolves are enormous. Like what you probably saw.
Is that
was like,
right? I thought wolves were like roughly in like the 40 or 50 pound range. Maybe that's like kind of like the I don't know, the cross country track wolf, if you will. But there are other kinds. You have like the dire wolf variety, and there are more burly winter wolves, I would imagine.
So yeah, the dire wolf is between 130 and 150 pounds.
Golly, yeah, that'd be cool. Give me, and I love dogs. I have a dog. She's a Labradoodle, for which I catch a lot of flack from one Jason Sakanic. But I think if I added a dire wolf to the mix,
So gray wolves, which I think what most people kind of associate with wolves, on the small end, they're 70 and they're up to 145 pounds. And height-wise, up to 32 inches.
okay,
So they're almost 3 foot tall
Yeah.
and 120 pounds. Like that's
man.
a lot of dog, brother.
Uh-huh.
And you're talking about a bite force that crushes bones.
This person on the text line, by the way, if you want to reach us with animal thoughts or anything else we're talking about, 503-864-6326 is the fan text line.
God
This
dang it,
person
the
says,
text line just nailed one.
I want-
God dang it.
I want a pet rhino. It won't bite or ram the hell out of you. If you just had a rhino that was chill going around, that'd be cool, but it kind of like, would it do anything? It would just sit there.
But he also mentions Danny sounds like Archer from the show Archer when he's talking about his ocelot. Yes.
You fox-eared a-hole.
Oh, yes, dude. Dude, Ocelot, he pees on everything, He doesn't have enough. Look at the size of this place. He's got all this room and no activities.
That's a show I need to give a revisit to. I used to watch Archer all the time back in the day, and I
Watched
need to
it
go
from
back.
front to back for my hip surgery.
Did you?
I was like, you know what? I haven't watched this all front to back in a long time. I think it's like 13 seasons. I was like, I know I'll enjoy this. I'll be on a lot of drugs. I am 100% like.
That's a good I'm on painkillers show, I would imagine. I haven't done it myself, but
The
you
first
need a little levity.
The first Rampage episode when Archer has cancer, when you're floating on Percocet and fentanyl, I don't think I've laughed harder. Like even though I know what's coming, just pure unadulterated bliss. Love it.
Text line telling us that the gray wolf is your Canada-Alaska type. It's 120 pounds. So, yeah, there you go. I've heard more, I guess, and they're probably more like desert wolves and things like that of the smaller 40, 50-pound variety. But, yeah, you get a big sucker like this, that'd be fun to have as a pet, especially if it's going to rip your face
Yeah,
off.
that's the thing is, like, I think you want to almost have something that nobody else has because it will rip your face off.
Yeah.
Like, snake people are weird.
Yeah.
That's like...
That's a different type. Not me.
I'm not. That's not my jam. I'm not afraid of them or anything like that. You know, some people like somehow quasi domesticate that dinosaur known as the alligator.
Ooh,
that'd be kind of cool.
I had a buddy in college who had a miniature albino alligator, and his name was Cuddles. And
there you go.
He had to get rid of Cuddles because Cuddles was too violent and was always getting out of the terrarium.
Well, just because it's a dinosaur.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it's a genetic killing machine. Like that's the whole thing. But there's a guy in the South. He pops up on TikTok. He does like the boat tours.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's the same one that will come up on the boat for like boops on the snoots. He wants scratches on his nose and a little snack.
No, thank you.
And people are like, "Oh God!" And he reaches over, gives him a little snack. Like, number one, I'm never putting my hand anywhere near the bite radius of any genus of that animal.
My wife and I did a boat tour down outside of New Orleans, and they do the thing where they throw a hot dog and marshmallows and stuff in the water just to get them to come over. And then there's some of them are so friendly with the boats and the staff, and they know that like you can't do anything to me, but I can come take your food. Mm-hmm. That like the staff is kind of cool with them like half getting their heads up on the boat. And I'm like, dude, no, I didn't say okay to this.
Yeah, no. I want no part. Like, that thing can just take my leg and run with it. There's the guy that boops all the snoots, the barefoot walker in the Everglades. He calls them all swamp puppies.
Oh God. They're not like puppies, dude.
No.
I did see one of those swamp folks the other day call an alligator over to crack open the beer out of his can, which was rather impressive.
Ooh, can I have a honey badger as a friend?
Yeah.
Ooh, honey badger.
You know, don't give an S.
Oh, dude, if you had like a cool honey, because the way they walk,
one that listened to you,
that does like the little waddle. Like they do like
they have this like a little muscular, they have a little bodybuilder walk,
like or a Wolverine,
or
a badger,
yeah.
Oh, see now we're talking.
Badger's one of my brother's favorite animals. He wanted to go by badger for a while,
okay,
and so badgers are badass.
My call sign in the Air Force was moose, but I don't think I would want to pet moose.
Okay, I want to put a pin in that because I have questions about call signs. That I love, and we do have to get to fact or fluke. So we'll put a pin on the animal talk. You can keep hitting us with your thoughts on them. 503-864-6326. But fact or fluke is next on The Fan. iconic. Talk about the wheelhouse.
This is the best intro song in wrestling history. It's the most iconic.
And you hear that glass break, and you know what is
And
coming.
what it represents, just like the hell that's about to come with it.
Yeah, a hell yeah.
A hell yeah. Austin 316, the beer,
chest
the
puffed
skulls,
out,
all of
the
it.
head
The waggle.
whipping back and forth. Yeah, there's smashing beers together, coming into the ring, leaving the ring. It does not matter. You hear that glass break. You can use that glass break for literally any sports-related thing, and everybody knows the tone you are trying to set with that.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, that brings me to an icebreaker question for today. You can name the sport, you can name the scenario. Pick a walkout song. What's a Danny Marang walkout song? Whether that is as a football player, maybe you're a baseball player, like whatever. You pick the sport, you pick the walkout.
So at Bearden High School, Jeff, I don't know if it was the same for you guys, but all 4 years I was there, and then I believe in my 8th grade year when I went to a few games, we came out of the locker room to start games to Sanitarium.
Okay.
I
know it.
That was
excellent football pump-up song.
That was our song that we came out to. I'm a metal guy. I would probably go with I'd want to say like Killswitch Engage, like Rose of Sharon, which I think we have on our Metal Monday playlist. That would be up there. Parkway Drive's Carry On. Like, I want something that just punches you in the face immediately. But also, coming out to Master of Puppets, like that's a good one. Enter Sandman with Mo.
Yep.
Like, I think it has to match what you're trying.
Hoffman with the bells of Hell's Bells.
Yeah, like you have to have something. What did Brian
Wilson?
Yeah,
that was a great one. He came out to House of Pain's Jump Around.
That's what it was.
And he said, because when I come out, I want everyone to know we're closing this thing down, and it's going to be a freaking party.
And it was the full-on sprint to the mound.
Jump around.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to finish this so we can party. That's my whole goal here.
And I think it has to set the tone. Like, there's plenty of hip-hop songs that I love, but I'm not
doesn't work for that necessarily.
No, like, I'm not coming out to California Love or Ambitious as a Writer or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I
liked when Barry Bonds leaned into the villain thing, and he started coming out to the Emperor's March from Star Wars.
Yeah,
like when Vader's walking.
Yes,
the whole league knew it, and it was great.
That's my ringtone for when my wife calls me.
What would you go with?
Like you, I feel like you want something that gives you a little bit of an edge. I'm thinking like Closer style, and I'm not that much of a metal guy, but when it comes to trying to get like keyed up for something like that, it just came in on the text line: "Bodies" by Drowning Pool. Let the bodies hit the floor as I'm jogging in. The whisper.
So I think it was Rockfest. Unfortunately, the lead singer of Drowning Pool OD'd here.
I didn't know that.
It was at the county fairgrounds.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so I went to go see that show, and they didn't play because he unfortunately died. So like every time I hear "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor," I think of
a body hitting the
body
floor.
hitting the floor.
Boy, that got dark.
Yeah,
Yikes.
but no, that's a great one. Like,
it's got the right feel to it.
I never understand. Like, I get it. People love country, and I'm not anti-country. I'm anti.
It's hard as a pump up though.
But like baseball players that come out to country songs, I'm like, that's weird to me. I never got that.
How does that get you in the spot?
Like,
I don't know.
Thinking about your pickup truck, your dog, your woman, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't give me death, dismemberment. Like, just like, we had our playlist that we would go out on when we would go out on missions, and it was the same playlist basically every single time. And it was always a mindset of like you were getting pumped up, and like, sure, we had some hip hop in there, but it was like harder hip hop and stuff like that. But it was almost like even the guys that didn't listen to metal or rock were listening to metal and rock because that's the mindset you're trying to set.
Yeah. And I mean, I think about like when I was growing up and like playing baseball and what guys on my teams would listen to, like we'd get amped up to go over batting practice with Limp Bizkit. You like let it break stuff and Nookie and stuff like that. And like what you really need is you just need the energy that's there to get it going. Should we get into fact or fluke before we totally kill the segment?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get through it quick. 3 of them. We talked about this a little bit loosely, but we want to put this up on the board. The Pacers have a chance to win in the NBA Finals. Fact or fluke?
Ooh, I will say fluke. I love what they have done so far. Carlisle is a genius. They've shown an ability to pick apart other opponents and find weak points for them. I just don't know that this OKC has those same weak points. Can they keep up for a while? Maybe. I do not think they can win 4 games in this series. I'll call it a fluke.
I'm going to say fact by the smallest of margins.
Okay.
And again, maybe it's my inherent desire or want
Sure.
to see a team that is built so differently and a player that is so unique and Tyrese Halliburton win a title, and maybe stick a little something in the craw of OKC and the ass-kissing of that organization
Sure.
that has fallen face first into a lot of luck. But I'm going to go with fact. All right, number 2. The Stanley Cup Finals are the best championship series in sports. Fact or fluke?
Ooh. That's a tough one because I don't know. For me, playoff hockey, it might be the best that there is when you have things that are tight and in overtime, but I can't quite get there. I will still say for me, I still like the 1-game winner more than anything. So give me a Super Bowl, give me the final of March Madness, but I'm not going to go with the series of the NHL. I'll say fluke.
I'm going to say fact. I think the Stanley Cup Finals is because everything matches. No matter because it's a game that's been played forever. You have 100 years of history. You've got organizations either in their first or Canada's long drought.
Yep.
There's always something historical you can tie in. The best trophy in sports, and
Bar none.
and the pain and suffering that comes with winning one and having your name etched into it and finally being able to touch it. Hockey players, they will not touch that thing.
Nope.
Unless their name is going on it. And there's just something about that and that intrinsic draw and desire.
There's an aura to it. There's the element, too, of all these guys. We talked about it earlier, the physical sacrifice, where they are by the end of the season trying to drag their bodies across the finish line. There's something really earned about winning that championship, and for that, I can totally get on board. But as far as deciding championships are concerned, I won't quite get there, but I'm with you. I love the Stanley Cup
I get it.
Finals.
Some people like the one and dones. I like the series because of the back and forth
Yep.
nature of it all.
Yep.
But there is something to be said for all the marbles on one night.
Yeah.
All right, last one here. This will lead us into our next segment. The Madden curse is real. Fact or fluke?
Ooh, I tend to not really believe in curses, but the proof is in the pudding. There have been enough of these cover boys out there who have graced the cover of Madden that we've seen it. Pretty successful hit rate. There is a step back. I will say that it is a fact that there's a Madden curse, not because curses exist, but because usually when a guy plays that well, it's hard to replicate.
I am superstitious, not a little stitious, but not to the point of believing in everything. Look, Jason Giambi's golden thong, it's a real thing, man. It matters. I'm going to say fact, and I have one name for you. Peyton Hillis.
Yep. The Avalanche himself. What he went? Did he go 2,000 yards? He went close.
I think
he
went
was
close.
the league's leading rusher.
Yeah. And
for
he
the
was
Browns.
a massive amount of probable HGH.
2012, he went for 1,000 yards, and then his cover year, 3.6 yards per carry, and worked his way into being a journeyman career backup.
Yep. And the run of running backs that made that cover, and you could talk about the wear and tear of running backs, but it was just such a huge deal.
Even talking about running backs, Adrian Peterson, he was indicted on child abuse charges. He played 1 game after he was on the cover. Oops. That's nothing to do with even his physical situation going on.
It nips you in the bud. And now I say that because the top of our next conversation, Saquon Barkley gracing the cover of Madden. Did you see the video that they did for that?
I did. I was surprised about one element of that video.
That he floated in midair?
Yeah, and how they did it.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know?
I do.
Oh, what was it? Was it
too.
cables?
Was it tables?
No, cables.
Oh, yeah, it was cables.
Okay, I was like, because you can't see the cables in the video.
I know they with their green screen and what they had going on, like they made it look like he had just recreated that whole thing.
But he pauses in midair so they can grab the shot.
Yeah, with
Exactly.
like an extra little.
I'm like,
little
why
lip.
is he levitating?
yeah, because he's that special.
I was like,
and he's
good
not
Lord.
cursed. We will get to the Saquon Barkley conversation. Is he going to have a step back this year? Plus some betting angles for the NBA Finals. That's coming up on Danny and Friends, 1080 The Fan.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final is this evening in Edmonton. The Oilers and Panthers squaring off for the second straight year. Edmonton looking to become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since Montreal in 1993. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on TNT. The Oilers currently minus 120 on the money line. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Suns hiring Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as their next head coach. Ott started as a video coordinator for the Hawks and has also served as an assistant for the Nets and Lakers before spending last season in Cleveland. The Mariners hosting the Orioles again this evening after dropping the series opener last night. Emerson Hancock starting for Seattle. Cade Povich for Baltimore. 6:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners now a half game behind the Astros in the AL West. And the Rockies finishing off a sweep earlier today of the Marlins, their first three-game sweep since May 13th through 15th of last year against the Padres. They are, though, tied with the Padres and Cubs for the longest current win streak in baseball. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2 and enjoy high def 1080 The Fan.
Thought about trying to break in with an Irish accent for Rowdy Roddy Piper, but I'll go ahead and save myself from the embarrassment.
Whoa. Stay away from my heritage, sir.
I will. Well, I'm of Irish descent as well, but I'm not going to try the accent. That's bad news.
Yeah, that 23andMe report told me I was 60% Irish.
Really?
Oh, like,
was it more than you thought it would be, or less than you thought it would be?
I thought I was 0%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I found out that my family lineage is like 2 generations removed from the island. Kind of a deal. Like, yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like the last name had been changed and a bunch of other stuff, and it was just
Morango.
Like, yeah, no, it was a lot. to find out along those lines, and my hatred for Notre Dame, notwithstanding, did not help me there. But it also explained why we've talked a lot about my golf lately. As I tan, the number of freckles that I have is returning exponentially, and I'm like, just a reminder of the fair-skinned heritage.
Yeah,
that is deeply baked in.
Yeah, the Buckley clan comes from really all over Northern Europe, Ireland, Scotland, Norway. That's Wales. There's a lot of that. We're Northerners.
There you go.
I get it. Let's talk a little bit about Saquon Barkley, because the dude was at a point where clearly he needed a change of scenery. The Giants were not in a position where they could use him effectively. People wanted to kill the Giants for trading him in division or letting him go to the Eagles. That clearly wasn't working there. But it definitely worked in Philly, to the tune of him being the offensive player of the year, averaging 5.8 yards per carry, averaging 125 plus yards per game. Put together an all-world season that we thought he would be worthy of when he was drafted with, I believe, the 4th overall pick. But, as you noted last segment, Saquon is on the Madden cover. Outside of the aura of just that curse and the history of people not doing well, what do we anticipate for Saquon this season? Can he run it back with this team, with those weapons? Or was that not a flash in the pan, but was that season we just saw out of him more of an aberration?
Well, Jim Aiello of The Athletic has a report that kind of highlights why you shouldn't take Saquon Barkley in your fantasy draft.
Okay.
And the marker is the 400 carry mark.
Okay.
This dates back since 2000. There are 12 running backs that have broken the 400 carry mark.
Okay.
The highest any of them have finished the following year in fantasy sports, when you're talking about RB1,
points and
RB2, RB3, like kind of going through that.
Productivity. Yeah.
Yes. The highest any running back has finished after that season has been 15th. And that's been done twice. DeMarco Murray in 2014 and Amon Green in 2003. When I saw this, the thing that stood out to me was not the running backs that had 400 carries, that Derrick Henry has never had 400 carries in a season.
That was going to be my next question, because
378.
I feel like he gets a ton of run and that he's always in the mid to high 300s, but I was surprised that he wouldn't have been there at any point.
He's led the NFL in carries 4 different times: 378, 349, 303, and 280. And now a lot of that has to do with the exception of really the last 2 years, just how much NFL teams relied on passing games. Again, what I say, there's 12 players in the last 25 years that have 400 more carries, which again is a lot of carries.
Yeah.
But if you go back further than that, you'll see a lot more guys that are coming up closer to that number because of the style of the NFL. Like the Emmitt Smiths of the world that were just racking up insane
different
numbers
era.
of
I mean,
carries.
that I almost liken that stuff to like the way that athletes' bodies have changed and developed is now it feels like it's the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, the Porsches, and it feels like what you used to have, even the best ones.
Despite leading the NFL in total carries for his career, Emmitt Smith never had a 400 carry season.
Really?
He's tied Derrick Henry 378.
So is that just the secret sauce? Use your guy up to that point, and then you're good?
I'm trying to think of the guys in that era, like Thurman Thomas. I'm going to see if he has any 400 carry seasons.
The Terminator.
Nope. His highest is 355. So 400 really is kind of
the
like
no number.
Let's check Jerome. Let's check old Jerome Bettis. I'm trying to think of the guys who like the entire offense was based around them. Let's see. The Bus, most carries he's ever had, 375. So these guys are all falling in almost the exact same spot.
Yep. And I'm looking now. Sean Alexander never got more than 370 in a season.
So again, like that seems to be the spot, 370, 375.
Yep.
But if you get over that threshold, that's when the body goes, nope, we need a year off.
So can they use him in a way this year? Because I guess what's not totally clear is that drop off the following year just because of the collective attrition, or is it because they keep using him that way? Could you dial it back with Saquon this year, and still get the same out of him, or is that hay already in the barn and you've already kind of worn out the tread on those tires and you're going to need to get him through this season? That's the question for me.
Yeah, you know what? One of the guys on this list does have the 400 carry season is Eddie George. I'm going to see if he has any other seasons like that. And no, he doesn't.
Okay.
So his career high was 403. Outside of that, it's 357, 348, 343. So right around 350, that kind of number we're talking about. But when you talk about those seasons for him, what's insane was his fall off season the next year was 320 carries, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns.
God,
that was his fall off year.
Yeah, different kind of dude.
Yeah, that was the run of 4 straight Pro Bowls and 3 All Pros.
Well, and the crazy thing with Saquon too is that he's never been close to that sort of workload. I mean, the closest he came was 295 carries in 2022. So again, and he's a guy that we have seen, he's so muscle bound. He's such an elite athlete. We've seen him get banged up. We've seen him miss time.
The hammy and the quad injuries.
And the soft tissue stuff. And so certainly you'd imagine that's at least on their radar. And maybe the training staff in Philly just much better than the training staff in New York. That we see that happen around the NBA all the time.
Phoenix is the fountain of youth.
Right. Guys go one place and they can't stay on the court. Guys go another place and everything's fine. And so maybe there's some of that going on here. But the big $1 million question for me is going to be, can you still generate the Saquon effectiveness without doing the Saquon volume? Because clearly doing that same volume again is not something that's going to be tenable.
The text line is asking, multiple people are asking about LaDainian Tomlinson. The most carries he ever had in a season was 372.
Okay, there you go.
So again, that it's crazy that through basically 30 years of guys that I've looked up,
even as the game has changed,
370, 375 is like the sweet spot.
That's the number.
Well, but Tomlinson, he was catching a lot more balls than other running backs.
True,
too, wasn't
true.
he?
He probably had 400 touches when it came to also catching.
Yeah, I mean
passes
he had a season where he had 313 carries and 100 catches. So you're talking about touches. That's 413. That's
right. Yeah, and most of those
that's a lot.
And most of those receptions, you're not right in the pocket there, and you're not getting blasted.
May
like
not
you
be
are
the
at
same
line
type of
scrimmage.
contact. Yeah. I understand that certainly.
Another one on here, Marshall Faulk, 324 in that season. He had 106 catches, so he had even more touches there. You're talking 430.
Well, we were just looking it up, and I know that Marshall Faulk was very much on that Madden curse list.
He was on one of the early ones. Is that 2004?
2003.
Okay.
It said that he had logged 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons and 3 straight 1,300-yard seasons. But in 2002, he broke down, missing almost half a dozen starts, and he never topped 1,000 yards again.
What's crazy is that 98 season, he had 1,300 yards rushing and 908 yards receiving.
God, yeah, I remember.
Greatest show on turf, baby.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That team, the way they put up points, it felt like the first of a new era, kind of. I mean, the whole league.
Nobody's been able to replicate anything.
Not that
close
exactly,
to that.
but people have tried to get to that style, and that was influential at that point in time.
Find me again when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers, and one of the best running backs, complete running backs the game has ever seen. Like that collection of talent, I don't think will ever allowed to be on a team again.
No, and you mentioned it, like the collection talent with like the receivers too, because everybody talks about Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner, but Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt.
Are you kidding? Go look at those guys' career numbers in an era that was not throwing the ball all over the field.
We got a couple more items to get to before we wrap things up. They dropped the puck on the Stanley Cup final tonight up in Edmonton. Plus, how are we going to bet this NBA final series? That's next. Danny and Friends.
It's
Welcome back. Wrapping things up with Rob standing over my shoulder here.
That's a rite of passage in that chair.
I suppose so. Yeah, does he just kind of hover and lord? Is that those words you would use?
He's
lording over me.
He doesn't say anything. He just stands there until you get out of his chair.
Oh. Well, I guess I'll do that eventually. Yeah. But before we do that, we do have something on the ice tonight, the Stanley Cup final. And I know that Big Sook is the big puckhead around here, but we were talking off the air earlier. We like this series. For one, it's a rematch of the one that went 7 games last year. But also, you have the mystique of, can Canada break that curse, and can they do it with one of the faces of the games as their top player
against the team in the Panthers that wants to beat the living hell out of you?
Yes, and the Panthers are weird because they don't have the superstar power necessarily.
No. Tkachuk's a hell of a player, but it's not the traditional, I'm going to get 100 points superstar.
And the Panthers definitely have the better goalie in Bobrovsky, but
God, the fact that he's still going is. I remember how the insanity of him in Philadelphia with the Phillies with the Flyers.
The Flyers, yeah,
and like he's a. Have you ever seen his interviews,
Bobo?
I don't know that
he's
a different cat, dude. I mean, all goalies are
wired
crazy
for sure,
but he's just like he's kind of like Dolph Lundgren, where like he's not an idiot savant, but like a weird savant.
He's like very robotic,
but like it's almost like a Mike Leach kind of a thing, where like you just don't know what you're gonna get, and you're just like, you look at him and like this guy looks certifiably insane, but also he has like these incredible insights and thoughts, and you're just like, that's not what I asked, but I'm listening.
Well, the series is close to a pick'em. I think right now Edmonton's actually going off as -130 favorites over the Panthers, but it's hard to find extra value on either one of them. The wild thing to me is Connor McDavid is even money to win the Conn Smythe. So
which I don't like betting those.
I don't either.
I like if you're gonna go for the awards and stuff like that, because a lot of times, man, it's somebody who comes in and like it's a goalie who just quick with the Kings when he was the best goalie anybody had ever seen on the planet.
Yep.
For 6 weeks.
Well, Bobrovsky is the second favorite to win this trophy,
and that's
like plus 270.
That's where I would lean.
Yeah. So I want to pivot over because you said you don't necessarily like betting the MVPs. I want to go to the NBA Finals because I feel like with this series, everybody is just talking Shea, Ty, and then it's everybody else. And obviously, Shea is the heavy favorite. He's at -600 to win the title. If the Thunder win the title and it's not him, who's it going to be?
The easy answer is to say J-Dub, but it's Chet. Because he brings something different.
Right.
Like that's like if he could come out there, let's say he has like a 30-point, 12 rebound, 5 block night, and then he backs that up with 20 and 9 the rest of the series, but he has a game where he just does
a couple
off,
unicorn
and
things.
You're just like, that's different. I like that. It's the Andre Iguodala Finals MVP kind of
situation.
And
that feels like another part of it, where in these series you often get the media trying to either make a statement or do something different. And it's not just that Warrior series with Iguodala. There have been a bunch of these. Even people talking about the last series of the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, Jaylen Brown for sure. But even just in the Eastern Conference Finals with Pascal versus Ty Halliburton.
Here's the thing. I think if the Pacers win this series, Pascal is going to win the Finals MVP.
And so, granted, they're a longer shot to win the whole thing, but if you like Pascal, 14-1 to win the NBA MVP.
If it's not going to, if the Pacers win, I think it goes to Pascal.
So, and this is really intriguing to me from a value standpoint. You talked about if it's on the Thunder, but it's not Shea. 25-1 for J-Dub, 75-1 for Chet.
And that's, look, if you're looking for the outside the box one, that's the one for me.
That seems like it could be worth a flyer.
Because J-Dub is like, he's been better because last year's playoffs he got annihilated by the Mavericks. I mean, just complete no-show. Chet, this is all kind of new ground for him. And so does he shrink in the moment or is he a riser?
Yeah.
And if he's a riser, because the expectation is SGA is SGA.
So that he stays the same essentially.
But if the bar is, at one place and you jump over it, and do it in such a fashion, which I think is why Iggy did, he's tasked with being LeBron's stopper.
Well, put into the starting lineup instead of Bogut, and it changes the face of the series and all that. It's like, weren't that his stats were that great? But
no, but it was the intrinsic impact and the things you can't quantify.
And if I hear what you're saying, it's like even if Shea goes out and balls out, well, he's been scoring 35-ish a game for the last 8 or 12 games. And so if he does that again,
love narrative. And if they can change a narrative on something, that, and again, you look for the outliers.
So you told me earlier how you could see the path for the Pacers, not necessarily saying that's going to happen, but script the series for me now. How many games does this go? How many can the Pacers get? Is it? I know you said it's not a foregone conclusion that Thunder win. It's outside shot for the Pacers.
I do think the Thunder win, and I think ultimately I'm going to pick them to win in 6. Picking them win in 4 and 5, man, it's like, it's almost kind of a slap in the face to the Thunder because of the statistics behind it, the analytics behind it. Like the analytics behind them say that they're one of the best teams we've ever seen.
Okay,
like that's
just by differential, by defensive rating, all that stuff.
But I think this is the thing where OKC comes out and looks god tier. Game 1. Indiana responds in game 2, and they do steal one.
You think they will?
First 2.
Okay.
And then it all depends on what happens in Indiana, how long this thing goes.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for these two teams. I don't care about the market thing. I think if you care about ball, this should be enough.
They should never mention it once on the broadcast.
We agree.
That's the thing that you should stay away from. Wholeheartedly talk about the basketball.
Appreciate Danny having me in today on this edition of Danny and Friends. Also appreciate Rusty doing the heavy lifting on the other side of the glass. Coming up next, 4 hours of power. Their mouths to your ears. One Isaac Everett Ropp and the Jason Sukanik. Thank you all for listening to Danny and Friends. 1080 The Fan Primetime is next.
Thank you all very much. Have a great night. Bye.